Welcome, Animatedly Podcast fans. We are back with episode 137, and we are doing a movie review. A new movie that just came out in theaters last week, Dragon Ball Super Superheroes. Still an interesting name, but it's understandable. But yeah, we have our guests coming. We have our guest in our show, and it's not Shonen. It's not even Shonen Ronan, and we're actually really happy. We are blessed to have him back in here. So let's go in and see our faces right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the episode of the Anime Lately podcast. I am your host, Sam the Mega Man, and here with me are my protakus. Introducing first, from the Virgin Islands, he is a man with diverse tastes and varying interests, a pillar amongst his family, counselors, mentors, and friends. He is the pride of the Caribbeans. He is the CFO of Conqueror Movement, Kyle Kenny! Next up, he is the CEO of Careful Spoilers Podcast Network, the host of Careful Spoilers Show, C4S Villains. Founder of The Man Who Stands, Aaron Yeager. He is the critically acclaimed, JP exclusive, the invincibly talented James Barnes. And now our special guest. Besides Shonen Ronan Sundays, it's been so long since we had him on the Animated League podcast, but we are always blessed whenever he is here. We have the pastor of the Church of MHA, still sharing more facts and knowledge on his YouTube channel and on a Twitter feed. You best believe that his words will not lead you astray. Ah, brothers and sisters of the live chat, please rise of the Church of My Hero Academia's pastor, Aniki Smash!
Love to be here. Love to be here. The only podcast I get an intro on.
Oh man, we gotta change that now. But how are you guys? How's the day? How are we all doing?
Good, man. It's a great time to be an anime fan. I haven't watched any Dragon Ball since the Tournament of Power ended, and I am having and Dragon Ball Broly, of course, but I am having the time of my life. Like, this movie was actually a lot of fun, and I can't wait to talk about it. Again, great time to be an anime fan.
Yo, JB, this movie coming out like when it did, like as we're winding down August and getting the transition into the fall anime season, which like all of us are already hyped for, is we're hitting a golden age of 2022 anime as far as I'm concerned.
Kenny?
You know, what's so funny, right? Is that at the top of the year and even the bottom of last year, I told people 2022 is going to be a year to remember for anime. And we didn't even have all of the announcements yet. And people were still doubting it in the spring season, which I don't know why, because I still think that this was one of the better spring seasons we've ever had, like at least across the last probably decade or so. It's one of the better spring seasons we've had. And here we are again. Everyone was like, oh, the summer doesn't really have that many things. Maybe that you don't want to watch, but the summer, I'm watching about 10 different shows right now. So again, I can't empathize with the sentiments that some people are having, because this has been a great year for anime. I tried a bunch of new different types of series that I probably wouldn't have innately jumped on just right out the gate, but I did take a chance with them, and they've been really good. And I still have things in the queue to watch, like Summertime Rendering and My Dress Up Darling. That's just on backlog because I just didn't have time to fit those things into my schedule at the time. So like I'm happy, and I agree to get this movie right before the fall.
Look, I'm a big Chainsaw Man fan, and that's coming out like this October, I want to say. I know Jigo Kuraku is supposed to come out sometime in the next couple months, and that's a finished manga, so I'm just curious to see how much of it is adapted and like how it translates into anime. But look, I read The 1,000-Year Blood War week to week.
I was with you, bro.
I read 1,000-Year Blood War week to week, and I was a little like confused towards the end, like, oh wait, this is way too fast. But I loved the 1,000-Year Blood War, reading it week to week. Even when I went back and reread it after signing up for Viz, like a year or two ago, or back basically when the $2 deal came out, I was like, boom, in there. And I remember being like, time to reread that arc, because I found out when I started interacting with like AnyTube and AnyTwitter and stuff that people hate the 1,000-Year Blood War. And I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. And then I went back and read that stuff, and I was like, nah, Hoshvalt's amazing, Bazby's amazing, Yawok's amazing. I love the Stern Ritter. Oh, that movement, the true Kenpachi stuff is amazing. And I'm like, oh no. And then I got to Everything But the Rain, and I was like, this is still one of the best backstories I've read in a manga. Nah, man, 1,000-Year Blood War is going to be an insanely fun time. And the only reason people are hating on Bleach is because it was the first of the big three to finish. Skip all the noise. I'm excited for that. And of course I'm excited for My Hero too. But I just had to get that off my chest about 1,000-Year Blood War too, especially since we're talking about, Dragon Ball Super today. And that's based on a classic, one that I believe all of us in this call grew up with,
it is the grandfather, like literally the grandfather of the big three. Like that's rare. It's inspired technically all the big threes.
It might be sacrilege, but to me, in terms of story, Bleach is clearly the better of the big three, if you ask me, in terms of straight up story. Now, I haven't read or seen One Piece, so I can't speak to One Piece, but everything else, I'm giving it to Bleach.
I got mixed feelings about One Piece because I'm gonna be honest with you, and this was really controversial. But a lot of people are like, well, One Piece touches on these really dark topics. And I'm like, that is its strength and its weakness, because it touches them, but I don't feel like it gives it the proper diligence to make it of something truly substantial as far as the writing goes, because the main character cares about these things, but he does not think about these things. He'll be like, oh yeah, I don't like that, so I'm gonna stop that from happening. But we don't get him straight up being like, I'm going to factor in my dislike of these harmful practices into my goals long term. It's just like, I'm on this island and my homie's going through it, so I'm going to help him.
I definitely agree with you. And I have 2 points. First point, before we get too far on that, is Chainsaw Man, as great as it's going to be, is not in the top 3 things I'm looking forward to watching for the fall.
Same.
I'm about to say, y'all could be offended by that if you want, but I've been in the game for a while, and it's barely in my top 5, if I'm being honest with you. And I've read Chainsaw Man. I know what to expect. And the funny part is, a lot of y'all are gonna hate Chainsaw Man the first episode or 2. It's not gonna be as good as everyone's been hyping up to be. So I hope you're prepared for that. It is gonna be great regardless. But I can already see episode 1's gonna come out and people are gonna be like, huh? What is this? It's kind of goofy at this pacing. I can already see it. It's fine. You get past it because it's still going to be a great series.
Yep.
But to get back around to like the big 3 talk, right? Each of them have their strong points in regards to different things and different aspects. I will say, coming out of the gate, Naruto feels really nice. The first arc, the first fight. I feel weird with saying
Naruto has the best Naruto. First chapter. Period.
The first chapter into the first major arc transition is really great. The actual overall arc of Bleach is way better just straight out the gates. Like when you put the whole package together and what you get from that first story is just way better. And then when we talk about Big 3, the thing that I like to keep people in mind for is when you think about Big 3 in respects to when we were watching it, I have no choice, because Bleach finished when it did, to encapsulate or rather to keep Shippuden out of that conversation to some extent. Because to me, what you have is early One Piece, which is I consider pre-Grand Line One Piece. I'm comparing basically pre-Grand Line One Piece or OG Naruto, and basically all of what we've gotten from Bleach so far. That's what I'm comparing. So when you
for viewers, he's saying Grand Line, he means New World.
Basically New World.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure I had your back.
I appreciate that. But you get what I'm saying as far as the setup is concerned.
Yeah.
When you look at those things in hindsight, it's like trying to say like, okay, let's compare Final Destination series to some other series, but like Final Destination had a movie more recently. You're trying to like it's kind of unfair to like package all the other new things that came out of the context
So-
of that timeline at times. But just
Yeah.
specifically, I think speaking to who has the better story, I do think, like I said, Bleach is there. I think One Piece is great for me. There's a journey and a progression that happens, and I don't think it happens as well, as quickly, and as efficiently in comparison to the other big three. And definitely, I think Bleach is superior.
Also, Ichigo has always been my favorite of the three of those main characters, because the thing that I think people lose track of with Ichigo is that, unlike those two where they genuinely exist in worlds separate from ours, Ichigo is supposed to be a dude living in regular Japan who is just stuck dealing with all this supernatural stuff. So like his frame of mindset isn't focused on, I'm going to be the Hokage, king of the pirates, things that are objectively far removed from anything like from our society, but rather he's like, well, yesterday I was a dude that just got to go to school and like focus on stuff, and today, like, yeah, I had to deal with like talking to ghosts every now and then, but now I got to fight basically super demons and all kinds of other stuff. So I guess it is what it is, but I'm eventually gonna get my life back on track because I still got to pay these bills, which is why he becomes an author eventually. Like,
yeah, I think also the fact that I think the fact Bleach's issue, in my personal regards as a reader, was that this setup was so huge out of that first arc and story, and you don't really get back to it until you get to the Arrancar part.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Bleach in between and around and after that. There's a lot of Bleach in between and around and after that. And I think that's what frustrates people. There are some story types that feel very rinse and repeat, although I will always stand behind, I think, the sword side story is really fun. I actually really want to go rewatch that.
Oh yeah, the Beast Swords arc.
Yeah, that arc was pretty fun. And I don't totally hate some of the things that people hate, like Bound and stuff. I just think the magnitude of what we got from the Arrancar and from the original arc, the Soul Society arc, is just, it's a lot. It was a lot. And to then want to see that same level of consistency is what I think where people kind of have issues. And I get it. I don't blame anyone, but we out here.
Mhm.
I think it could have worked better if Bleach wasn't the one that was in danger on its sales, and it was Naruto instead. Because I feel like Naruto was in the best place for it, where to end, and not where it ended. It did. Whereas
Naruto
Bleach,
definitely had a more balanced existence.
Yeah,
Especially because Naruto actually has a good amount of international sales. And I think Naruto actually sold more abroad than it did in Japan.
yeah, that was the
Yeah.
one that did more outside of Japan.
Where a lot of people will be like, One Piece is like the greatest comic in the world because it's about to hit like these records and values and stuff. And then it's like, but secretly, 90% of One Piece manga volume sales are in Japan exclusively.
Yeah.
And then that changes how you have to look at it around the world now, because you're like, why is this pirate series able to hit this high of a number, but like 460 million of it copies sold are in Japan exclusively?
I mean, we also have to remember the big three was still more so predominantly off of manga sales regardless. So we're still considering totality of manga sales when you talk about any of these series. So it was always a locked in thing. I think even Oda has only, obviously you can see the growth of Oda personally over the years as he's expanded his palette and his desire to reach audiences from the video games to the movies and everything else in between. But I think they all play their part in opening up different pathways and venues. And if we really want to be honest, as far as series that has given us glimpses, or writers that have given us glimpses of spin-off series, again, Bleach, our good king over there has shown us great merits. I'm still waiting for a second season and some more writing of chapters for that Burn the Witch, if I'm being quite honest.
Give me season 2 of Burn the Witch, and I need people to stop asking for both season 2. So Kubo basically said in an interview, "Shut up asking me questions. I'll write when I feel like it." And I'm like, all right, well, guys, we can want Burn the Witch season 2, and we can want him to explore this hell arc he showed us, but we gotta make sure somehow he doesn't hear about it so we can get it, because apparently that's a deciding factor in this situation.
I mean, maybe he will after the Bleach anime return and everything, but
Yeah, because he is working with the team.
but they didn't really discuss how many episodes it's going to be within this new season though. Like, and we're very close.
I'm hoping at the very least we get the Black Clover straight through, maybe 50 plus episodes. That's what I'm actually hoping for.
And
It's
then,
probably asking for a lot, but I think it would be the best way to execute this series.
I think we got 1,000-Year Blood War announced like a year or two ago.
I think 2.
Yeah, I do think it was like 2 years ago.
It was like for their like anniversary or something, like their 7th
Yeah.
anniversary or something like that.
I think it was, hold on, let's see, because I know he wrote it for 15 years, so I think it might have been the 20th anniversary announcement.
Yes, that was the 20th one.
So I think that might place it in like 2000 or 2021.
Yeah, that makes sense, because that's when we got Burn the Witch too, so it had to be at least 2 years.
Yeah, so we got like the Burn the Witch announcement, the announcement of 1,000-Year Blood War anime, and depending on how far in production or they were when they made that announcement, honestly, Kendall, what you're saying might not be unreasonable. Because if we assume that they had already started working on and maybe even finished a couple episodes when they announced it, and that's 2 years ago, then it's fair to assume they at least got like 20, 30 episodes ready and queued up for us to watch. So
I mean, it would also help increase its own book sales too. Like, it's gonna do its own reprints and Burn the Witch sales. And
yeah, so we're literally looking at end of 2019, beginning of 2020 for those initial announcements. So we could say beginning of 2020 for those initial announcements. So it's literally been 2.5 years.
yeah, so we should have enough episodes queued up, or what you're saying might happen, and I might be able to get away with them releasing, a complete box set for Bleach, and then I'll find somewhere to stick that.
They never printed the one shot, right? The Hell Arc one shot.
No, I don't think so.
I think that, like, it would be announced, and then people are going to definitely want to buy.
That's a movie. I'm gonna tell you right now, that's a movie. Later on in the future, somewhere, that's a movie. And then if he ever decides to continue writing, maybe we get a series. But I think if we're lucky in the next maybe decade, we get another Bleach movie, and we probably maybe, if we're lucky, get that season 2 of Burn the Witch. But I just like you said, Kubo done spoke, and I'm not about to press the issue.
It would be the first canon movie from the big 3 though, because
Naruto the last.
No.
Because I don't believe Naruto movies.
No,
were canon thing.
You're wrong, because there's Naruto and One Piece movies that are canon. So
Really?
yes.
Well, okay, so the way One Piece works, and I hate this more than I hate non-canon films, is that One Piece gives you canon information in non-canon films.
Oh yes, okay.
No. As of the last, I can't say last 2 for sure. The last film is canon, according to Oda. The last animated film is indeed.
No, I remember reading his interview. So the specific thing that he said is that he was like, "I'm mad that people complain about movies not being canon, so I figured I could slide some canon information in there."
I mean, look,
and I'm like,
dog, it's canon information.
I'll take it as canon information, but not
canon information.
Story, though.
So the specific thing that's canon is that the Raftel thing.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That one.
So I'm like, but then at that point, why didn't you just go ahead and put in a little effort to give us canon movie?
No, that's Oda's thing. I think Oda has really a lot of fun with these other side projects, and I think that's why he does that.
Yeah. And for Naruto, it's Naruto the Last that's canon. I don't think any other Naruto movie is, but that specific one is designed to bridge the gap between
Boruto one, where like they actually redid the movie.
Naruto the Last and the Boruto movie are both canon. There we go. Yes. Those are the 2 Naruto verse canon movies.
But then they technically redid the Boruto movie in the series show. Just
Boruto and Dragon Ball did the lovely thing of giving us movies and then thinking that we wanted them as episodes, and then that inspired Demon Slayer to do the same thing. So I guess we're gonna continue getting that as a stupid trope going forward.
All right, which I guess we can now segue into an important question. If the Dragon Ball Super anime comes back, see what I did there. Do you think we're gonna get like episodes dedicated to Broly and this superhero movie, which is apparently named Superhero because Toriyama forgot that the current run was Dragon Ball Super, so then it ended up being Dragon Ball Superhero because he just thought it would be Dragon Ball Superhero.
And there's already a Dragon Ball Heroes show too. That was like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, he has a whole game and side series that he does sign off on. That guy is hilarious.
This dude basically forgot launch, so
in context, I don't mind the name. Like before, the name bugged me, but in context, once you've seen the film, it's like, yeah, cool, it fits, it works.
Yeah, no, like it just happens to be that it's currently Dragon Ball Super. It's one of those things that it's like, well, that's just how that title works. I'm fine with it.
I mean, it's not that they could just use their initials and say DBS Superheroes kind of
That's
thing.
how I've been saying it. It's even like that in my notes right now.
That's
same, actually.
They can literally just say they wanted to say that name, but they can't because the real name, the branding name is Dragon Ball, and they need that Dragon Ball Super in the title. So,
which
you're saying?
Before we even like roll into this, we're all at least putting this, like 7 to 8 out of 10, right? Like,
yeah.
Because this was the kind of movie that was supposed to make you smile a bit, but also give you some interesting good action scenes. That's how I felt about it.
Can I push a question back to you guys?
Of course.
Was it possible, just in your mind before seeing the movie, each of you, did you even think it was possible for this movie to be anything stronger than an 8?
Never. Like,
dude, I
don't go to Dragon Ball movies to get more than an 8.
I just wanted to make sure we was all collectively on the same page.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure.
Like you, I only saw the first trailer, right? But what I saw, I hated. I did not like the animation.
The one where Goku is like hopping around that animation.
That's the only one I think I watched.
What the fuck?
And it didn't have anything to do with the movie,
right? That was the
right?
teaser. So that was just the teaser. I'm talking about the trailer
when
we actually got to see Gamma 1 and 2. And I'm like, I don't like this animation. I don't really like the direction they're going with the Red Ribbon Army. But again, in context, it works. Like, the trailer's horrible. I personally think the trailer is horrible. But in context, this movie's awesome. I also saw some leaks from the film. I'm like, what the fuck is this? But again, in context, everything's better.
I guess, JB, then I want to bounce off you real quick here then and ask, did you, like, after watching the movie, still dislike the Red Ribbon Army direction?
No, I actually liked what they did in the film.
Okay, yeah, that was kind of how I felt. I was like, having this public face and specifically having it more or less to be a pharmaceuticals company, I was like, no, that's genius. That's splendid.
Real. That seems more real. Yeah, that's
right.
Okay,
yeah, I was like, good on you. Yeah. Especially because pharmaceuticals and the militaries can interact sometimes. I don't know if you guys have ever looked into CRISPR, but it's like it's one of the things that's expected to be like leading the way in the future for gene editing, like technology and stuff like that. And so one of the guys who was working with that, I was looking into this for My Hero video I released a while back, but he was working to create like a more or less a serum that when he would plug it into rats, it would lead to them reproducing a certain, trait. And then after like 3 or 4 generations, it would force sterility or infertility onto all the rats on the islands of New Zealand. And that will lead to the rat population dying because rats aren't native to New Zealand. And so they have an issue with a lot of their land birds getting killed by rats. And one of the big reasons why they didn't want to let him conduct those experiments in New Zealand is specifically because he actually was military funded, or he was working for like a private weapons manufacturer. And they were like, what happens when you take that technology and give that data to the military. We don't want to possibly help you engineer something that'll wipe out a specific race of people or something like that. So like the Red Ribbon Army having this like pharmaceuticals plus military thing, I was like, this is like real life. Look at that.
Considering Capsule Corp is kind of like, it's also a pharmaceutical or something like that.
Capsule Corp is technically, you could argue it's a quality of life technological company.
That is perfectly stated. That's perfectly stated.
But when you think about the fact that they do technically make planes and stuff like that and vehicles, if they were to work with the military objectively, you could assume they would be able to develop a B-52 bomber capsule. And like at that point, you know, you can capsule, and this thing has stealth bombing capabilities on it. Like, whoa.
Yeah. No, which is it's the quality of life, like you said. And I think at the end of the movie, we are reminded that Bulma is very much so quality of life. We were reminded the whole movie through, but it's like nail in the coffin reminder of like Capsule Corp is really quality of life, like specifically Bulma's quality of life.
No.
So that's another thing that I don't want to get too far into the movie, but that's another thing that I liked about how what was the leader of the Red Ribbon Army's name? Magenta? What was his name?
Magenta,
yeah. Magenta and Dr. Hedo.
Yeah. So he was like, his whole thing in spinning it to Dr. Hedo is that Capsule Corp is this evil organization with this alien advanced technologies that's going to take over the world, right? I thought that was interesting propaganda because, again, that's kind of what we do to each other, right? We villainize, like in politics, we villainize the Republicans, we villainize the Democrats, we villainize each other, right? And them using that, weaponizing, because exactly what you said, someone could literally have a belt full of capsules that all have nukes in them. They could just walk around with nukes on a belt or in their pocket and just destroy any country on the planet. You know, so trying to spin that to someone who is logical, but he's been in prison, right? So it was interesting that he found a way to spin that and almost made him like believe in the propaganda.
And my thing with that propaganda is that I was like, the craziest thing about this propaganda with, Capsule Corp is evil and they have these aliens with them and woo, and I was like, well, they technically do have aliens, they technically do have alien technology. Objectively, these people, if they ever choose to turn against the earth, could one-shot it in a heartbeat. I'm like, these are all things that actually any government, if they were fully aware of the Z Warriors, would be concerned about. There is no government on the planet that I can think of that would find out a group like Bulma's existed, and be like, yeah, this is okay.
Sokovia Accords.
Like,
I was literally just gonna say, there's a lot of things here that's giving Marvel. There's a lot of things here that's high key giving Marvel. But the funny thing is, like you said, like, is it really wrong? They out there producing little alien babies, and they could just conquer the world.
Her own real baby too. It's like their own kids too.
To play off what JB said, they have the ability to put nukes in capsules, but they also have people who can shoot nukes from their palms.
Literally.
Like if Vegeta hits the planet with the Big Bang attack, it makes Big Boom Crater. Vegeta specifically aimed the Final Flash so that it would hit Cell, but not the planet. And then we were shown the Final Flash going off into space. And then something, whether it was a planet or an asteroid or a moon, blew up in the distance. And Vegeta was going to blow up the planet on his first trip to it.
And it wouldn't be the first time Vegeta blew up planets too. Like, we literally had that whole episode where, like, they did a rest stop for this planet, destroyed it, and then went straight to Earth. Like,
so let's walk through some of the movie, because I think that's another valid point as we get into something here. So the early movie does start off with Goku and Vegeta, right? And that's actually a critical point, just kind of segueing from that point with, like, because it starts off and we get this spar that happens. We get an introduction of who's on the planet. We see that Brolly's there. He's training with them, which is like, I don't know about everybody else, but that was my assumption, is that at some point Goku was gonna bring Brolly into training under his wing somehow, some way, some form. So it was kind of nice to get that payback, especially since the last movie we saw was Brolly. So that's one thing. And then they get to sparring, Vegeta and Goku get to sparring, and that's like a major point. It's like, you guys can't use ki. You're gonna destroy the planet.
Like, no blast, no god ki. Like Whis was like, no transformations. No transformations or projectiles. Pure hands. And what's crazy about that is that, I don't want to skip to the end credit scene, but I will say that Beerus mentioned that one of them was more technical than the other, all the way back in, like, you know, the second super film we got, where Beerus was introduced. If you remember, he straight up said, like, your form and technique is actually better than so-and-so's. And it was when, you know, that person got extra mad that he was like, oh, look at you, you are nice. You do have power to match that other one.
It's funny because we've gotten Vegeta cheese in every single movie, and then we'll get to that later on, but we've gotten Vegeta cheese in every single movie, and to see what we get at the end of all of this it's just a nice final touch to the entire package that is the movie.
I question how Toriyama had felt about that. Like, all right, I'll give it to you guys, this one too, even if it's on the big screen, the movies.
Toriyama was like, I guess it has been 25 years.
Finally. Finally.
Oh man. But yeah, I think we've done pretty good with non-spoiler works for people who have not watched the Dragon Ball Super movie. I think we can let it go. Careful spoilers, guys.
All right, there we go. Sweet. We can let these spoilers fly. All right, I want to talk about Shenron real quick, because the writing was crazy, but also I feel like Piccolo kind of earned it for his role in Shenron's existence, as well as, okay, actually real quick, can we highlight Dende? Because that was wild. He was just like,
he just somehow can make the 3 ball, like, oh, I could make it 3 Dragon Balls just by pouring some liquid onto Shenron.
Like, and the fact that there's a base thing for Shenron, that is a crazy lore reveal. Like, that Shenron exists within the Dragon Balls, but also within a statue.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember that ever being covered previously.
There's a lot of cool lore stuff that happens.
There's reference of it not for planet Earth, if I'm not mistaken, previously.
I don't remember it on Namek though.
No, not on planet Namek, but I swear I'm maybe I'm being paranoid, but I swear there was a reference to there being this other like solid form for the dragon. But I'm either which way, like JB said, there's definitely a lot of lore that's expounded on in the movie, and I really feel like I felt like we got that in itself was one of the first callbacks that we got in the movie, because the stylization of Shenron at this point is a lot more reminiscent of the dragon that we remember Shenron to be. And then on top of that, the difference between Dende and slight call to the manga, for those that keep up with the manga, is that you basically have someone, you see the difference, because it's literally something that just happened in the manga versus right now. You see the difference in someone who has been trained to be a guardian. Dende was trained from a youth to be a guardian. So there's a lot of things that he knows, even that Piccolo would never have known how to do or deal with. He knows of the things, but Dende was literally raised and bred to be that type of guardian. So it's nice to have him get his little moment of shine like that. It was pretty funny, and it for a second it felt kind of cheesy, but it was like, what else could you possibly have done with this for this to make sense and it not be any more cheesy?
And
so
we don't know
really
what he did
it.
Behind the scenes too, right? Like, we just saw the end product. We don't know what he did, you know?
Yeah.
And then just to add an extra layer onto what you said, Kendall, is just one thing that's really cool is we know that there's different like types of Namekians that have different types of powers as well.
Yo, I was gonna lean
That's
into
cool.
that.
Yeah. And then
'Cause-
we also learned that Piccolo, he doesn't eat. He only needs water for sustenance. I also don't think that's something we've ever heard
No.
before.
And I like that they were talking about how, because to a certain degree, like, while age isn't necessarily XP, because I've met some older fools and I've met some wise young people, so I don't want to have anybody watching the stream be like, he's saying only the older people know stuff. But age often is XP. And so I kind of like the idea that like then they was like, you have to be objectively a certain age to just be able to be like, here you go, power up. But you have to have been around long enough to just be running around willy-nilly unlocking people's abilities. Because if you're gonna do that, you kind of need some discernment. Because if you were willing, like let's just say a Namekian randomly unlocked Vegeta's power and like highest potential back in the Cell Saga. I mean, not Cell Saga, Saiyan Saga. That's a horrible. Why? Don't do that. Don't do that. That would be an empty planet Earth. Or like if somebody did it for Nappa, you know? So it's like the idea that there are abilities that are just hard locked by aging. One, obviously, it also kind of makes like the world of Dragon Ball a little more RPG-esque, but I'm kind of used to that manga. Like, to me, One Piece runs on an EXP system.
So just to clarify, I don't know where the reference is, but I'm more confident of is that we did know, maybe we didn't know specifically of Piccolo, but we were aware that Namekians live off of limited resource food. That is a thing that has been known. I very specifically recall
Limited,
that.
but I didn't know that Piccolo could just survive off of water. That's the part I'm talking about. I didn't know that part.
I'm gonna pull something else up.
I mean, we have not seen once Piccolo eat or any. Technically, we have never seen any Namekian eat anything before.
Yeah, boom. I just found an article from 2018, and it says Namekians do not need to eat food. They can survive off of water. They just eat food.
Oh, sick. Yeah, I need. Yeah,
so it's one of those things. It can be like seen or inferred or understood, but because you see him eat things occasionally and stuff like that, it's normal to be like, oh, that must have been retconned out.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But no, we're sticking to that, which makes me wonder why we didn't stick to four-finger Namekians, but whatever. That one's not as big of a deal. Which, okay. How do we feel about, because this is still starting, like it is at the beginning of the movie, but it isn't. But I kind of feel like this is a fair question. Because we can say, well, then they upgraded the dragon, but how do we feel about the dragon kind of being able to grant that orange form?
Well, I mean, technically, he didn't grant Piccolo the form. He just unlocked his true ability. So that's fully within the dragon's power. So that worked for me completely fine, you know?
I don't know how to take it because to me, yeah, the whole thing that you said, Sam, with extra, because that's what I see it as. I feel like the with extra is like well, you used to be a kami, so I could put a little extra spice on your wish for you. Y'all Bulma over here wishing for whatever anyway, so I might as well, get a little extra spice. And then we also know that the balls were just up, the dragon was just upgraded. So I think it's kind of just like I think it's an overall quality of life, and I appreciated the context of it. I don't think anybody else deserved that. I don't think it would have made sense for anybody else to get that extra special love or attention. It made perfect sense for it to be Piccolo. And for him to get a bonus form out of it, I think is perfectly fine.
I was actually okay with it too, considering where like in Dragon Ball Z, we seen the old Namekian powering up like his children in order to fight Frieza and his own men. Unfortunately, there wasn't anything strong enough to be able to match against the Frieza team.
Yeah, well, in Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2/3 terms, it was the sync with Nail. Was what Piccolo did after the unlocked potential, which is what they called it for Gohan and if you were playing Kid Gohan or Krillin, you could get the capsule for unlocked potential that you would be able to transform at like 3 key bars, or it would lead you to a permanent 4 if you were playing Kid Gohan or Krillin, and Budokai 3. So definitely, look, we're in a very, very deep bag here for media references and everything like that, because this is one of the biggest franchises to ever come out of Shonen Jump. Arguably one of the biggest franchises to come out of Japan.
It's also to learn that, like, even Dende said, like, oh, only Namekians have to be within a certain age form in order for them to learn that technique or to like do that certain stuff too.
And again, this is a slight call, not directly, but slight call to Dragon Ball Super, because they just also kind of touched on that, on two things. Essentially, is that we know that age plays a factor, and we know that the level, you basically have to train still. Like, you still have to train to like enhance those powers, and as you do the powers over a period of time, it strengthens and it allows for further evolutions for the Namekians. And so like that's kind of like my point to something that Joaquin said in the chat, is that I think the Namekians have a threshold that is not the same as Saiyans innately, especially we know of the mixed bred Saiyans. And I think that was intentionally worded the way it was because of what we end up getting with Gohan later on in the movie, to kind of put like a certain type of idea of like, I'm giving you this and more, was kind of like a big setup, not just for Piccolo, but for Gohan later in the movie.
We can
So
also
I think the words were intentional.
I say we can even say like maybe it was Piccolo's father, King Piccolo. Like, since he used to be in Planet Namek and now he goes to Earth, but then we never really seen his full entire potential. The only thing we ever seen him in Dragon Ball was that he just grows bigger, and that he was just a demon king or something like that too.
Yeah, and which I like the fact that they brought back the growth ability, like just making him get bigger, and then explain, oh, getting bigger doesn't necessarily make me stronger. I'm just big now.
I'm glad they made that distinction, because it makes sense. Why would you magically gain more power because you're larger? It's stupid.
Especially when it's based around ki and not
exactly.
Like you gain more weight, but that's not, and like weight can translate to force, but you also consume more energy to move a bigger thing. So that's kind of like if you want to be physics nerds about it, that's what balances it out,
And it wasn't like, him not being as strong when he gets big. And you think all the way back with Vegeta going into his gorilla form with the full moon. We could have had we could have had the whole Vegeta in gorilla mode versus giant Piccolo kind of thing. But after Piccolo saying, "Oh, but I'm not as strong," you weren't able to like fight Nappa, so there was definitely no chance for him to like fight Vegeta during that time too.
Yeah, like
right. So that's not a transformation. So like him turning into the yellow Piccolo or orange Piccolo, whatever, that's a transformation. Him getting larger is like a genetic skill, essentially.
Right.
Which also I'll say that one of the things that I've liked about Piccolo fights, and it's one of the things that I enjoyed about like during the Tournament of Power, Krillin's performance, is that him surviving against the Gamma was him understanding, okay, wait, this thing might be a little bigger than me power level wise. So I'm gonna instead make it a point to hide, get that data on their general operations and figure out what's going on here. And once again, highlighting and creating a story centered more around the intellect of the characters who are supposed to be smarter, like Piccolo and Gohan. Even if Piccolo was being mad toxic in this movie, because like when you think about it, like dude was being wild. He was out of pocket, because he was like, let me pretend you're like, hey Pan, pretend you're kidnapped and act like I'm hurting you so that your dad gets mad and finally takes fighting seriously again.
It worked.
from
he knows what triggers a Saiyan.
From raising him from raising him when he was a kid to train him for like the war, the fight with Vegeta and Nappa, to all the way to adulthood, to traumatize him even more so that he gets more power.
Like, which, yeah, like it's consistent too, because if you think back to one of the first times he got Gohan to truly activate his power, it was when he grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and went fastball and threw him at a mountain. So
it's so funny. It's so funny that we say that, because I try to bring that up when people talk about, oh, Piccolo was such a great father to Gohan. And I know there's a lot of callbacks and throws to that. And I was like, you guys forget how horrible Piccolo is to Gohan. It's like, I don't even think Gohan sees Piccolo as much, at least to this point. I don't think he sees him much as a paternal figure, but more as like a older brother, or like a really, like, you have like a really good friend that's a little more wiser than you. I think that's the regards that he holds for Piccolo. Like, he's part of the family, but I don't think Piccolo ever like sees him as a father figure. And
I would say, so this is gonna sound weird, because it's clear that he at minimum sees Piccolo kind of like an uncle figure. And the reason why I say this is because of the level of responsibility with Pan that they place on Piccolo is usually what you would do with your grandparents. And, you know, like, especially when you look at how he finished the battle.
Yeah,
like
no,
that, the amount of,
but yeah, no, there's definitely like Toriyama definitely leaned into the like Piccolo's daddy like content. He definitely leaned. He might have slipped, fell, and got back up, honestly, in that. But I think ultimately the distinction is still there, where it's like, so we look at Vegeta as being a counterpoise to Goku a lot, whereas Piccolo is also a counterpoise to Goku, because Piccolo is the more serious character. Like, you have to pick the most serious character in the series, and you don't list Piccolo as one of those characters. He's just seemingly the more reasonable, the more responsible, the more serious person. And then to see that turn around in a certain fashion, where, you know, you'd like to pick on Goku for being a deadbeat and all these good things, and you see Gohan in a almost similar neglected fashion. Not that he didn't care and he was out training, but he was obsessed in his research, which is very much so no distinction difference from Goku being obsessed with training.
That is
any kind of
pathology just applied to academics. You are 100% right, Kendall.
So like we gotta really just be honest about that. Gohan was being true to himself, but he still was kind of like but it's a thing, right? It's really in the DNA of Saiyans. It's like, once you reach a certain age, you should be self-sufficient. And it's true, around that age of like 3 or whatever, they're sending them out to destroy planets. So
that's a good point. Even though I'm not gonna lie, because my fiance was at that film with me. So like when Pan was like blitz the red ribbon guard that came to kidnap her, I was like, this is the life that I want for our child, baby.
And Pan is only 3 years old too. Like,
stranger danger.
Yeah, I want my 3-year-old one shot in full grown men if necessary.
That needs to be a gift right there. Stranger danger, and it's just Pam folding this man over.
Which, don't get me wrong, that's another thing I'll say, is that this movie was pleasantly blended between its comedy aspects and its action too. Because I was guffawing and laughing, just enjoying that scene. But it's also like, yeah, like when they were fighting against, you know, Gamma 1 and 2, it wasn't a bunch of jokes. It was like, hey, yo, are they actually going to be able to win this? Like, obviously, like in the back of your mind, you're like, well, no, they're going to be able to win. They're the heroes. It's a movie, blah, blah, blah. But the Gammas actually presented a real threat that felt legitimate, and you were able to kind of suspend the disbelief of like, oh yeah, well, of course they'll make it through. But it's like you didn't look at it that way. Like, you got to be like, yo, these Gammas putting that work on them. And when we got Cell Max, okay, how do y'all feel about Cell Max?
You said how we feel about Dura-Cell Max? That was the other reference. That was other reference, JB.
Dura-Cell
I knew it was
Max.
gonna come up eventually. Talking about Dura-Cell Max. You talking about what's he talking about? I didn't hate it. I felt very apprehensive when I heard the name in the movie. I'm glad I didn't know that was a part of the movie, because it might have actually really taken me out of the movie, honestly, if I had known that prior to coming into the movie. I felt apprehensive when I heard it, but the more they talked about it and the more they kind of reasoned with why, and they kind of put Magenta's like backing and where his brain was with it, I understood. And then when we got the reveal, I was happy with two things. First off, the design was fine for me. The enhancements were fine. I was also really fine with the color choices. The second thing is, I'm glad that we have an understanding and it didn't mess up canonically. It could never have been Perfect Cell.
Yeah.
So that was something that was very specific and interesting that I like. That was like a very high point for me in watching the movie, because when we finally got the reveal, I was like, okay, perfect. It's not like a mutated Perfect Cell, because that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't.
To add another level to it real quick is that, remember in Dr. Hedo's head, like he sees everything as like heroes and villains, right? Like like Cell Max, the design that they chose is a more aggressive design. It looks more villainous compared to Perfect Cell. So I think that was another aspect to it too. Like that version was more like animalistic, and it would come off better with the brutality that he brings in, like when he's going wild and shit. So I think it's all of that all rolled into one. I thought it was a great design choice.
I want to add that Cell Max not being like personality driven made it, because like on one hand, if it had been Perfect Cell, it would have been like, no, the whole point is that Perfect Cell was vaporized to the cellular level. This doesn't work. But it also isn't like, oh, we just took the data from that fight and recreated that same character and did the same thing we've been doing with Frieza. So it's like, all right, that's cool. We have a balanced cell where we get similar designs. It's ultimately, we know it's supposed to be similar / improved upon technology. So of course it turns out at least similar in design with it being Cell. So it felt more like, instead of Cell being like just a cheap copy or something like that, it felt more like, no, this is a continuation of the Cell project. And it's the natural design that would come out of the type of experiment that makes Cell, or that organism, you know?
I agree, because when it came to Perfect Cell, he didn't really manifest into like the future, or a different parallel future of it. And I guess you could say he was more sentient. He had more brains, he had more mind of his thoughts and everything like that. When he came to Cell Max, no, you just need to make him a beast, make him like a creature that we could control, kind of thing, like a whole. Yeah, it was just like something you see in the military / pharmaceutical company would kind of manifest into.
And I think it did a good job balancing Dr. Hedo, because
Yeah, for sure.
Because at the end of the day, he was like, no, we are not releasing Cell Max. That would be stupid. No. And so it's like, there you go. Even if he's falling into the selfish researcher trope, he still kept his limits. He was still willing to be like, no, don't release the wild animal-like thing that's going to destroy half the planet if it gets the chance to leave its cell.
Yeah, I think I want to kind of pivot to Dr. Hedo, but I also want to address the comment that Coyote made. Yes, we do know that Cell Max is the preferred version, but I think even if that was the high point of guiding it, I'm still grateful that we stuck to some continuity, because it was like, well, the movie itself establishes that they didn't capture all of the research. And that's kind of the premise of like pulling up on Dr. Hedo. So now we can really transition again to Dr. Hedo, because they doing their research. They think they spying on Dr. Hedo all the time. We pull up on Dr. Hedo, like, I've been spying on you. And we get this little introduction of like the genius that is Dr. Hedo, because we're always thinking of androids and things, right? We're thinking of androids and stuff in the likelihood of a human. So he's like, oh no, this is a living mechanical being. That's a bee. And I thought that even right there and right then, I was sold. Dr. Hedo's kind of a cool little doctor right here. And I was invested from that point forward in like what was his ideologies and his ideals. They kept the childlikeness to him, and then they kept tropes that attributed to that. But he was definitely very much so self-aware. Even his decision to join is definitely rooted in the fact of, I know what's going on here. And I also selfishly have my own desire that I'm trying to pursue. So at no point was it just like Dr. Hedo was just like going to give into the darkness. It was just kind of like playing with the fire. Like I needed the fire, therefore I played with the fire.
Like
so what did you guys think about him?
Well, the whole bribing him with the whole soda and then the whole cookies and then the whole like him sharing the ideology, and you have Magenta say, we'll give you this much money, we'll give you this money. No, the negotiation is you give me all the money that I ever want, or unlimited budgets for my project and my sort of stuff. Like, I mean, that's literally what like the smart boy genius that you would definitely want.
Yeah, it definitely falls into a couple tropes, but it's definitely something that would naturally happen though. This is someone who is an even greater genius than his grandfather, who can't get funding to do anything. Imagine us being content creators not having the ability to create content, much less someone like him who's so advanced in his thought process, not having the funding that he needs to bring his ideas to life. So he knows, like he says in the film, he knows they're bad people, but they're the only ones that will fund his research. And in the end, he did end up creating real superheroes. You know, so I did like his arc from beginning to end. Yes, technically he is a murderer, but there's an arc in there, right? So I appreciated it.
Which, like, okay, how do you guys feel about the Gammas? Because I actually like that one of them was like, I can't remember which one it was, if it was Gamma 1 or 2, but they were like, no, I just confirmed who the bad guy was.
2.
Because it was
2, yeah.
Two's the emotional heartbeat out of the two. Gamma wants the discipline and like to the mission kind.
Yeah. So like 2 being like, nah, we not being superheroes if we working for these folks. I really like that. I mean, I guess part of it is also me being a Young Justice fan, and I don't know if you guys remember the Red Torpedo, Red Volcano story, but it was like, I created Red Tornado because the first 2 androids, because they were born thinking they were human, actually dedicated themselves to their programming and being a hero. And they were like, yeah, let's keep saving the day. And then they both ended up dying. Whereas, so like for these androids to kind of do the same thing, it'd be like, yeah, it's my programming. And yeah, I could take my programming as I follow the Red Ribbon Army, but instead, we're taking our programming as we are heroes. No matter what, we were born to be heroes. And if it turns out that we got to be betraying the Red Ribbon Army, then so be it. I really do like that approach to their, design. Same,
because technically that was how like 17 and 18 was too. But not in a superhero form, but more of a, we're in it for ourselves. We're supposed to be the whole super beings, like the more... We are destined to fight Goku or to kill Goku. Like that was their main objective and main goal this entire time. But their programming can change, and it has once they met Perfect Cell or semi-perfect Cell, but somewhere. But
meeting Cell, meeting Krillin,
yes, beating up Vegeta.
The smaller characters like Goten and Trunks. I feel like, do you guys feel like Gotenks, we got Viku instead, or like V10 or whatever you want to call them, instead of, or Troten or however you want to call them? You guys feel like we got him because Gotenks would have actually been able to deal with the Gammas and that would have been a problem? Is that kind of what you guys took away from that, or am I tripping?
No, not necessarily. I think it was done to keep the focus on Gohan and Piccolo, because we saw Even Gohan was technically kind of struggling, even in like that form, kind of perfected form that we saw in right before the Tournament of Power, like that last power up. Like even he was struggling, and I don't think that Gotenks would have even matches that power level. So I think it was done for humor, but also to keep the focus on Piccolo and Gohan.
Okay, because when I saw that, I was like, well, because my thought process was like, well, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks with the two of them as teenagers when they've still been training. I was like, oh yeah, I can see that actually being a problem for one of these androids. So
I still don't think in regards to dealing with Max, it would have made enough of a difference.
Yeah, no, I specifically think it would have screwed over the Gammas. I think one of the Gammas would have actually been popped before we got to Cell Max, which narratively also creates an issue. So
yeah, so I think one is the one that they haven't been practicing to try and fuse, because I think that that's also like a kind of undertone of a point of like they're basically independently rivals, so they're trying to compete with each other too, so they're not necessarily rushing to do that form. That's one thing. And then also even talking on the whole teenage thing, that's also a crazy thing, because we literally haven't seen them in this form, in this specific form of their growth period, because this is like their actual in their teenage bodies, because we know that they were getting older, and we know that a lot of time has significantly passed this point. So it's interesting to see that, especially because we're given Pan's age, so we know for a fact that Goten and Trunks are teenagers, basically based off of just that alone, honestly. So I think yes, I think easily Gotenks hitting Super Saiyan above Super Saiyan 3, right? Because younger them was easily hitting Super Saiyan 3. So
also true.
Like we gotta assume that this is on the level of initial awakened, or I guess current awakened Gohan. So I think you're right. I don't think it might have been, I don't know if it was stronger than that Gohan, but I think there's reason to believe that it could have possibly been that strong. Is the question in hand here, and I do agree. But I also think it was just comedy. Like we needed it was time in the movie for some more comedy, and that was a reasonable choice for the comedy, and it was still relevant, because I think Toriyama was also trying to, like, I gave an out on how to destroy this, but like it's not gonna be so simple. And then to just be like, oh look, they did serve a purpose, was the funny bit. And then even the whole thing at the end, the interaction with Bulma and the snarky remark, and then seeing Trunks kind of embarrassedly creep off the screen, like I think all of that had its own merit that was able to add a certain level of flavor and comedy to the movie in a not taking you out of the way, while still being relevant to the dynamic of the fight.
Yeah, because we didn't need a Super Ghost kamikaze attack landing directly on Cell Max's brain.
Yeah.
Especially from a Super Saiyan 3. It's like, that would have been enough to, like, multiple attacks already cause damage.
One more thing, if I could throw this in here on the Gotenks thing, is we were already getting, and we're already in spoiler talk, I know we ain't got to this part yet, but we were already getting a new form of Gohan. I think as strong as Goten and Trunks was, Super Saiyan 3 wouldn't have been enough. They're not going to get the form that Gohan has that's above that, which means he was going to have to introduce a whole other form in addition to Gohan's form, or the same as Gohan's form, for Gotenks.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
They could have gotten a god form, Super Saiyan Blue.
That would have been just as, I mean, they were part of the process to get blue, so they technically have that is technically a thing that they're preordained basically too. They have access to God Key already.
I would say a good thing would have been kind of, so I gotta be honest with you guys. I liked Trunks's like Super Saiyan like demigod form back in Super, and like I know people are like that spirit sword thing, they hate it as far as like how it
was. It was good. It was good. Boo. I don't care what nobody said. I loved it.
So and my thing is that I was like, Saiyans grow stronger by taking damage from other people, dealing with that other ki. But then I was like, but in addition to that, that was his father's God ki that like kind of whooped his ass a bit. Because you remember he was like, Trunks, it doesn't matter if I'm strong enough to handle your problems. You need to be strong enough to handle your problems. And so the way I kind of looked at it is that I was like, that fight led to a Saiyan encountering Saiyan God ki and not getting killed. And so residuals of that, and there was apparently at some point a narrative shift where S cells became a thing, and an S cell count can directly correlate to your ability to access Super Saiyan, which is why Goten and Trunks could do it, because when they were conceived, their parents were already at that level that they had high enough S cells that when they passed on their DNA, their children were born with that high S cell count, and that led to them being able to Super Saiyan. So with that in mind, it like kind of felt like that kind of changed some of his S cells, and that's why he had this weird blue glow while still looking mainly like a Super Saiyan. Like it was like he was tapping into a small portion of God ki because he fought his father, who, like that genetic similarity and stuff allowed for a bit of transfer. So I was like, that was immediately my takeaway, which I know is maybe like overly detailed to like think of in the moment, but it was like, this is what I think is being told here via him having like the similar like God type aura or whatever. So
yeah, no, that was a good call. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. That would probably have been the next of kin thing, is that they would have had to give him, if not the God form, some type of glowing with the God form residual thing for them.
Yeah, so like something like that for Gotenks, where you would have gotten like a Super Saiyan 3 with like that blue around his main body or something like that. So also, did any of you guys see the old Dragon Ball Z third Broly movie? I think it was. It might have been the Janemba movie. It's the Dragon Ball Z movie with Hitler in it.
You talking about the movie with Brolly that we don't talk about? Is that the movie that you're talking about? Because we don't talk about that movie.
it might be, because there's a scene where like they transform into Gotenks and go Super Saiyan, and Hitler pops up and he's like, blonde hair, blue eyes, I must have them, as they're destroying his army.
It might be what Thomas says, the bio Broly, the when he was like a slime kind of creature.
Yeah,
thing.
I mean that's instantly what I thought of when I saw
it's
Cell
bio
Max.
Broly.
I was like, oh, it's bio Broly, just with Cell. Cool.
I'm just glad that I'm not crazy and people were like, no, like it's the third Broly.
No, they're telling you that we don't talk about that movie.
And I mean, I'm okay with it, right? Because it's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like Cell was a perfect being. He was outmatched, right? Like if you already created the perfect being, create it again and make it better. It makes perfect sense. Look at the flaws and then just fix them and make it better.
And then in this case is that the Cell Max did not need to absorb any other androids to be in perfect form or anything else, and it's not by nature. Nature was not the one that grew up to help produce Cell neither. This was all nurture and chemicals and bio everything. I think it makes the most sense, especially when they make the story where the grandson is more smarter than the grandfather, so he's able to go above and beyond his own research too.
Yeah, there's also just a factor of like, there's only so many gaps that you can fill in. The full research wasn't there. He filled in where he could fill in because he's a genius and he could indeed fill in those gaps, but he still doesn't know or understand even the intents of his grandfather, because he wasn't even raised by him. They don't even have the same mindset. They just happen to be genetically aligned in the same desire to build androids, but like they're completely different people. So like the intentions are completely missed there based off of that factor.
And they made it a point to kind of emphasize that his family was kind of estranged from the Gero family and the Red Ribbon Army. So it's not like he ran up to one of Gero's bases and was like, here's all the data you pulled from the Super Saiyans, from Piccolo, from Frieza, from all these other stuff. They had access to some of those clips, but I doubt they gave him the full scope of that data, because if they had given him that data, he would have also been able to watch, or he would have immediately noticed, nah, you edited this film so that I couldn't see certain parts. because you wanted me to have a specific conclusion about these events.
And like they did say that he ran away with his own research, so they never really discovered how he created Cell, as well as the weird like we learned that their uncle, like or his son, Jiro's son, was the same, using him as the same model for Android 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it kind of just tells you that there's his weird Jiro's weird obsession to try to kill Goku really went into his own mindset of making the ultimate androids to like kill him, kill Goku, the alien invader kind of situation thing. But
it is what it is on that one, you know.
You muted, James.
Oh, sorry. One quick thing about the gammas in this movie. I really like the sound design. Every time they hit them, it sounds like they're hitting against metal. That's not something I really remember. Please, correct me if I'm wrong. That's not something I really remember from like the Android saga. I don't remember ever like hearing that in the sound design, but I thought that was a nice touch.
I think that was from the video game, right? Or like they kind of did that in the video game and they just put it here in the movie.
Yeah, I don't think that was common in the anime.
Yeah, that was a really nice touch for me.
So that leads me to where I want to transition. There's a lot of things called to in this movie, and I think one of the wildest call tos, like I was telling JB before we got on, is the transformation that is Gohan's transformation. And I want to know what you guys think about it and how y'all felt about that transformation.
So Mystic Gohan, I'm calling it Mystic Gohan specifically because I already made a Budokai 2 reference earlier. So we following that right back up. If you were playing like adult Gohan in Budokai 2 and it applied to Budokai 3 2, you had Super Saiyan 3 or Super Saiyan unlocked at 3 key bars, Super Saiyan 2 unlocked at 4 key bars, and Mystic Gohan being unlocked at 5 key bars. And so him kind of like going Super Saiyan and then Piccolo holding up Pan and being like, all right, Pan, pretend like I'm shaking you down so we can get your dad mad. And pushing into that Mystic Gohan form and it being like an incomplete version of that, which I'm glad, like that's kind of something that was kind of hinted at even during the Tournament of Power, where it was like, all right, cool, you've gotten this power, and you're tapping back into this form, but you're still rusty and you're not able to utilize it to its full potential. And your overall latent potential has been dropping. And when you think about the fact that like even during the film, Piccolo was like, all right, I'm gonna go pick up Pan, but you got to wear this training outfit. And he dropped,
even to that, the fact of Mystic Gohan spars with Goku Blue.
Exactly.
On fear terms. So let's put that into context of latent power, untapped potential, still not living in your potential, but at that level was already at a point where Gohan is able to match to some extent where Goku was at a certain baseline level. And then
which I also like, and I'll say in Krillin's favor, because like Krillin being in the movie, and I think Bulma kind of makes fun of him, but he's like, you realize that all the people at the police department call me superhuman. And it's like, yeah, no, like objectively, Krillin is still superhuman. And during the Cell saga, because one of the things that Dragon Ball has made kind of consistent is that there is a such thing as a power level being too far out of your depth to properly register and understand. And in the case of Krillin, if you remember during the Cell saga, he could discern that Trunks had extra power that wasn't being detected by Cell or Vegeta. And he was like, you're specifically holding back your full potential so you don't alienate Vegeta because he's your dad. And so it's like, if Krillin can kind of register the Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan, like halfway to Super Saiyan 2 power levels, then that means that he's not that, like he's behind a substantial amount, but he's not incomprehensibly behind. Which means Krillin is a certified planet buster. Like he could destroy the earth if he decided randomly to be like, I'm mad about it. Suicide, because he can't breathe in space. So
They make fun of Krillin, but when you think about it, everyone else is an alien. He's literally a superhuman.
Yeah.
Literally. You know?
yeah,
I mean, you don't see Yamcha or Tien in this in like this movie or anything within the fight. Now Krillin's still in there with his wife too, technically.
and he threw a destructo disc. He was like,
His
I'm
his,
still
his
trying
no move, his well known move.
It's so funny because as soon
And the
as he
solar
jumped, as soon as he jumped out, I was like, "Here comes the destructo disc." A couple seconds later, destructo disc. I was like, "Yeah,
If
yeah,
it ain't
yeah.
broke, don't
Don't
fix it.
fix it.
And then the flash, the eye flash. Like,
Which was
Yeah.
clutch.
The solar flare actually like mattering. Good touch, like bringing strategy and being like, no, because part of defeating Cell Max was obviously the hit his weak spot, but then taking it to a full level of being like, hey, bring out a CC ability and blind this man so that strategy is truly emphasized in this fight. I'm like, great, thank you, because I read Dragon Ball Super's manga and they kind of brought strategy into play for the last fight, but it was ultimately like, fine, I guess we'll jump this guy. It wasn't like actual dedication to the idea of being strategic within the fight.
There was a purpose and intent behind that as well, though.
Yeah.
For setup for the next arc is what I'm guessing based off of things, but there was power limits that were kind of put there in place is what I understood from that. But I agree, having the reminder of like combat is still indeed part of what this is, and part of fighting and martial arts is to have a technique as well as game plan, and so they showcased a lot of that.
Yeah. Which I feel like we kind of talked about a lot of like the Gamma, like kind of what they did, so that I don't feel too egregious talking about this, but I need to be honest and say that I really love how Gohan finished the fight.
It's the cement. Yeah, Piccolo's my dad. Because I'm not using no Kamehameha, even though Piccolo told me use the Kamehameha to blast him through. No,
I mean, he freaked, bro. He freaked, and he wanted to let y'all know that he low-key was still training, and like
Yeah.
Piccolo is the one making this request. He's like, I don't care what the attack is, use the attack. And he was like, I mean, Piccolo, I'm looking at you, so you know what? Why not? And you can see the Saiyan cockiness when he transforms, right? You see the hubris that comes out because he knows he's stronger now, right?
there is so much parallel to the Cell arc with this movie.
I was
too.
just about to
There's
say
so
that, yeah.
many, so much of it.
Like every time Gohan taps into his highest power level, those Saiyan genetics really kick into overdrive, because that's how he ended up having to fight all them Cell Juniors, and that's how Goku ended up having to teleport him to Cell to King Kai's place, because it was like, man, I'm really whooping his ass, like,
and enjoying it. And
like
enjoying it.
that's basically where Gohan ended up, like mentally, like I'm really whooping his ass, and like, so while we do have like those callbacks to the Cell saga, it is also worth noting that this time Gohan did not get complacent at any point. Like he tapped into that new form, got extra power, and was like, yeah, we need to put this dude down ASAP. And then Piccolo created that space for him, and he was like, a Kamehameha wave is ultimately a big blast. Like it's got like that AoE, it's got a lot of splash damage, whatever. But if I use Makakon Sopo, that's going to be pinpoint right where I need it to be, cause like all the destruction to the specific weak point. So if I don't slip up, which if you think about it, it also ties into the Saiyan saga, except it's like a reverse where, Goku was holding down Raditz.
I was waiting for you because I was just about to say it's definitely the Raditz reference.
And then, but we got Piccolo holding down, you know, so, and we got him charging up that Macomb. And then, so it's like, it was like the embodiment of Piccolo and Gohan's relationship is really what this film is about. And that's dope. For people who care about that, you know, like I guess if you didn't like Piccolo or Gohan throughout your entire run watching Dragon Ball Z and, you know, then I guess, yeah, you might not like Super. But if you enjoy Piccolo and Gohan being master and student throughout so much of the story, because I think a lot of people like to sleep on the fact that ultimately, if you look at Gohan's outfit when he stepped out to fight in the Cell Saga, even though he was training with Goku in the hyperbolic time chamber, that outfit was still derived from Piccolo's outfit.
Yep.
And even if you look at the color of his gi before he trained on the Supreme Kai's planet and, you know, got handed another gi, that was also a purple gi. So usually Gohan is rocking clothing that is more reminiscent of Piccolo than any other sensei he's had, including his father.
Even
And
though
again,
his
now,
adult form wearing Piccolo's suit, it's like, you didn't have this much trouble when you were a kid, the same weight and everything. It's like, oh. Sorry, Kenny, you were gonna say something.
I was just saying also the reminder that he wasn't taught this move. He was shown how to do a Kamehameha. He was shown how to do the Masenko. He wasn't shown how to do a special beam cannon. So
I'm pretty sure he probably had visual of seeing Piccolo.
Yeah, no, he said in the movie, he said he's been in secret trying to do the move, and you see Piccolo kind of turn around and he kind of, you know, proud parent, I can't show you this emotion kind of thing, but I guess it was a good one, you know. I guess it was good, you know. I guess
that, like, I thought, yeah, Piccolo being like, because like, and they set that up pretty well within the frame of the context of the movie too, because he's like, who told you I like plushies? But you get to see that plushie pile early on, where it's like, even if he's saying who told you I like plushies, he ain't throwing away any of the plushies they give him.
It's a gift from his kid.
Like,
and his grandkid.
Yeah.
Which, okay, Pan, adorable.
Beyond.
Sold the whole movie, stealing the show every single frame. My two favorite characters of this movie, without a doubt, are Pan and Gamma 2. Like easily my two favorites in the movie.
Because like, no, go ahead, Sam.
No, because I was going to say, like, during the training when Piccolo was training Pan, like, Piccolo even said, like, you're actually already far beyond your own father, even younger, even when he was a little bit older than his age. Because I think Gohan was training with Piccolo when he was 4, and like Pan was able to take like this much.
Something like that, 5 or some shit.
He's like 4, like he's like 4 to 5.
I think he makes 5 or something while they're training or something like that. He's about
and then 5. He might be 6 during Namek.
But yeah, like Pan able to take blows from Piccolo, and as well as, well, the only difference is that she doesn't know how to fly yet. But for a 3-year-old, that's still incredible, and she's only a quarter Saiyan. Which is where it's the genetic coming from, where like it could like just be a natural Saiyan thing where she gets the durability and endurance.
At this point, I kind of feel like Saiyans are like Viltrumites from Invincible.
Okay, that makes sense. That's a good comparison, yeah.
And I think that actually, like, to a certain degree, I feel like the more human DNA the Saiyan data has to overcome, the harder it works. Does that make sense? Because like when you look at like how
no,
Gohan,
definitely.
Because like the way Gohan progresses, it's like, I'm half human. Well, I gotta go even harder and get this body as much power as possible. Tap into these emotions. Yeah, boy. Yeah, let me get some of that dopamine. Yeah, like that's kind of what it feels like like specifically whatever the chemicals that are released in the human brain almost seem to be exactly what the Saiyan physiology is looking for to further advance its like improvement.
Yeah,
And
we definitely got in that context before, the more emotional tapped inness of the humanity of the earth human race, that being something that also predisposes the Saiyans to, being able to tap in even sooner, because there's more emotions. You also talk about just like the environment is completely different than what they grew up in. Thinking about what the triggers are for ascending to a different level, it's easier to tap into that when you're in a state of being. I thought I already blocked and reported this account.
So did I. But we move.
all right.
How many times do I have to talk to you, Grandpa?
I also dropped the hide this from this account, so hopefully it just.
Yeah, that's the first thing I did. Yeah. But yeah, Pan, adorable, complete payoff through the whole movie. Nothing about her existence in the movie was extra. I felt very gratified in her getting to fly. You kind of saw the moment building up for her to have that moment to fly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Krillin was right in a sense, because it's just like there was no way in that moment that he was going to be able to save them both. He probably could have still, and he probably could have caught her from the explosion, but she's much smaller. So by the time he grabbed, Bulma, who was clearly closer, and then tried to go there, he might not have made it, or she might have flew off in another direction. So for that payoff in that moment, it ended up feeling pretty good for me. And then you get the grandpa, granddad, granddaughter moment at the end. It's like, look, I can do it. And, you just know she went off the screen to fire off some energy key like shortly after that.
And like, okay, now we can move on to the next lesson, meaning I'm guessing like it's for Pan to either learn more of key blasts and everything, because I think that's what she said, like she wanted to learn how to do the key blasts and everything like that. And afterwards it's like Super Saiyan mode. I was like, oh Jesus, she's quick.
I just want to see Pan do a special beam cannon.
I would like to see a Pan special beam cannon as well. I don't care if it's in a video game. I don't care. I need her as a character. I need her as a character, and she needs to her whatever high tier move needs to be a special beam cannon.
I would go back and play Fighters just to play with Pan with special beam cannon. Because like, I know it's not popular, but to me, Fighters is just eh. Like, I just don't like the system of Fighters like that.
I've never
in my opinions, you're not missing out on much.
Yeah, I heard it's awesome.
But I also think that how you feel about Fighters comes down to how you feel about fighting games in general. Because, and it's kind of the same with like people will be like I met a lot of people who didn't play a lot of fighting games, like, oh, I'll put people in Ninja Storm, or how a lot of people who aren't super dedicated to fighting games will play a lot of Smash, where there's like two waves of fighting games. There's like two sects. There's like very traditional, when I say traditional, I mean Tekken, Soul Calibur, King of Fighters is still in this realm, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Injustice, because it plays similar to Mortal Kombat. Those games are like one of the realms of fighting games now. And then we have like these arena fighters and like the Naruto Storm games, K and Y. And then in addition to that, like the sumo fighting styles. So like the
don't forget the smashes and the Brawlhalas.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like
multiversals.
And that's what I mean when I say like the sumo style, like the which is Smash, Brawlhalla, because those are ultimately sumo style fighting games, because you're building up, wearing down stamina and pushing somebody out of a ring. That is always your focus in those games. Whereas, so I guess you could argue that Soul Calibur is like the median between these two, and I think a lot of people gravitate towards one side or the other, but I also think that Fighters is technically in the middle, but it leans more towards that audience that plays like the arenas and stuff like that, because it has kind of similar to like an MVC, like Marvel vs. Capcom type play style with the tag system and the assist and all that other stuff. but it also feeds into, auto combos, that aspect where that's a lot more directly created to be accessible. Like nobody puts auto combos in their game because they think that will create the highest level of technical play. They're putting auto combos in the game specifically because they think that is more fun and easier to digest and easier to play around than it is to do stuff like Street Fighter's technical linking, where if you don't time it right, you're not going to get your crouching double medium punch to medium kick cancel into Hadouken combo, because that's not technically made as a combo that exists in the game. It's made as a thing that you can execute because of timing and the recovery rate that it takes to recover from set blows. So depending on which realm of fighting games you play, that'll determine whether or not you enjoy fighters, I think.
I mean, you could also wait to like Dragon Ball Heroes, because I know that show in itself just gives you enough content of guilty pleasure to do, like to watch whatever they have. The basically the important stuff of what people wanted, and it's basically the fights or like the evolutions or the different new characters that we've never really seen, or the alternate universes kind of thing. Because I think that was the entire point of Dragon Ball Heroes. It's so that you see many different versiles of characters within the show, and they get their 5 minutes of fame within the fight and stuff like that. With the whole like, golden cooler. I forgot the other guy. I forgot the other Saiyan name that they hold in the prison, and
you're talking about the new Saiyan that they introduced.
Yeah, like a couple years back.
God, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now.
But that guy, like, I think eventually they're gonna have like Pan as one of the heroes, and just we're more likely to see more of the fighting. Hopefully not the GT version, but we already prefer this Pan more than the GT version.
I loved Pan regardless. I was completely fine.
Yeah, I'll say
Pan's
that.
always been awesome.
Yeah, especially he's not here, but and on behalf of our resident GT stan,
you could say it.
No, I like Pan.
It's not like he could defend himself here. That's why.
No, I'm just saying I like Pan. I will always stand behind. I don't think GT is a horrible series. I think people just want to hate it. So
yeah.
No,
I mean it's just not my favorite. That's it. I don't think it's garbage or anything. It's just not for me. I did not care for Baby that much.
One of the things that I think is interesting is that it's been kind of said that the beginning of GT and the more gaggy aspect of it is why it failed, or why it wasn't as appealing, which I find fascinating when you look at OG Dragon Ball and realize effectively the thing that hurt GT the most is returning to form. Because original Dragon Ball is actually pretty gag heavy.
Yeah, but I think the timing was right, because they were re-releasing Dragon Ball alongside like things to the Western audience. I don't think anything was wrong with it conceptually, but much like James just said, I hated Baby. It's not even close. If you ask me what was the worst villain in all of Dragon Ball lore, I think it's Baby.
Wow.
Yeah, I just don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like what it feels like. I don't like the semblance to other things like Boo. I don't like it. It just didn't feel good. And for the timing and everything, ultimately the payoff that we got from it was awesome. Like we got Super Saiyan 4 because of Baby. But like
I am just not a fan of how Vegeta
the story is terrible. Yeah, the story is terrible. Vegeta's interactions are terrible. Vegeta being handled, the whole mustache thing was weird. It's still weird to this day.
That was weird.
Okay.
Him only getting Super Saiyan 4 only because Bulma built him a machine. That's completely out of Vegeta's character. Like, he wants to earn this power.
That I'll agree I don't like. The thing that I liked about Baby, so how do you guys feel about Granola?
That was his name. Like,
I love
Heroes?
Granola.
So you have to
Oh no,
realize
no.
something.
Oh, from
You're thinking you're talking about Cucumber. That's what his name is. It's Cumber.
Cumber. Yeah, Cumber.
Yeah.
That was his name. Sorry.
Yeah,
No,
I'm talking about
Granola's
Granola from the manga.
What do I think about him in regards to what?
Just did you like his character? Did you like the basis for his character?
I grew to like his character. I was not completely sold on the basis of his character.
Because the reason why I say that is because ultimately Baby is the blueprint for Granola.
I can see that, I guess.
I can see it.
Because if you think back
that
to
that also ties into probably why I also don't care for Granola upon like first sight of Granola, like his first introduction and early parts of him doesn't feel very like good to me.
But that's why I had to ask, because it's like Baby being like, no, y'all took my planet, so forget you, I hate you, and this is my chance to get revenge. And if I have to exploit your bodies to get that revengeance, I'll do it, because I get to turn you into slaves just like you guys exploited us ultimately anyway. So I'm like, from that perspective, I'm like, Baby kind of embodies like the consequences of all the Saiyans' actions. And so for me, it was like, okay, yeah, like at the end of the day, it's like when people ask, oh, why did Vegeta choose to resurrect the Saiyans with the Dragon Balls? And even outside of like the power level stuff, it's also like, was that a culture and society that you actually should bring back to the universe? Because even with, you know, them obviously going to be like, no, we're not riding with Frieza anymore. You got to ask yourself what the Saiyans have been like, well, now that we're not going to work for Frieza, it's time to dedicate our lives to arts and crafts and just simply training and being strong on our own planet, or would they have just stayed planet pirates?
Yeah, real quick thoughts, at least while we're on the current state where the manga is. I think this current arc has done a real good job of expanding on a lot of actual lore to the Dragon Ball universe. Just in this arc, there's lore in regards to Frieza Force, there's lore in regards to Goku specifically, and as well as just like kind of putting into context I think Toriyama is trying to sell us on something in regards to these air quotes fighting styles that specifically attribute to Goku vice Vegeta. And I'm paying attention. I am actually appreciating where we are on the journey of Toriyama's storytelling currently. And trust me, I'll be quick to flame. Y'all know, catch me online. I'll slander Dragon Ball Z for you.
Oh, look, fun fact. I have a chat in my Discord that is like, look, if you're gonna slander a series, do it in this particular chat. Don't, show up in the Black Clover chat and be like, let me flame Black Clover for 30 messages straight or something like that. But the thing that led to me creating that chat, I think, was specifically a spoiler back during the Moro arc, where it was like, damn, they're really taking away everything that made Moro unique to just make him a generic buff villain.
Just literally made one of the most interestingly set up, designed characters and cheesed. Yep. Cheesed. But yeah.
So yeah, like I don't have a problem admitting when like the franchise drops the ball. Naturally, I think Bulma has to be around 55 to 60, because I think Goku is in his mid 40s to early 50s right now. And
yeah, I mean, Bulma is older than Goku when they first
met
and stuff like that too.
Mm-hmm.
She's like 8 to 10 years older than him. So
yeah, I was gonna say 55.
Yeah, I definitely pushing close to the 60s is definitely where my headspace went. Yeah. Goku, Vegeta and Bulma are both older than Goku, by some years.
Right. I mean, we're gonna be in this topic. Should we just talk about the jokes within this movie, like the comedy in this movie?
Hey, you mean you want to talk about the comedy in this movie? Or you want to talk about the fan service in this movie, boy?
They're around the same. They're around the same, like literally in the same spot, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, we could get into it while we're talking about the aesthetics of Bulma. Yeah, they
So-
definitely was trying to bro. I was with my friend and we all laughed because she said, not Bulma wish for BBL.
Literally.
And we collectively lost our rockers in the movie theater for a second. Oh, man.
I've never heard somebody describe it that way, but that is kind of what happened.
Yeah, shout out to Natalie because we there was another black guy in front of us and he looked back and it was just a running joke for the rest of the movie that we was just like, she really just wished for a BBL. That's crazy.
Which, okay, I guess that does make it weird, like Bulma's age weird, because now that I think about it, Bulma is like 10 years older than Goku, but Goku died for like 7 years. So I guess real quick, we know that Goku at the World Martial Arts Tournament versus Piccolo was supposed to be like 18, right?
Yeah, I think 17 or
Yeah.
18.
So then we know he shows up with Gohan, I think, because I think the tournament that he fights Piccolo is like the last one of Dragon Ball. And then right? Am I
Yeah,
tripping
it
or-
was. That's how
You're right.
Dragon Ball and
So then he gets married to Chi-Chi after that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was like supposed to be like a week later, months later, whichever one, but we know he's supposed to be like 17, 18 then. So then he shows up with Gohan at Kame House when Gohan's like 4. So that
Yep.
would put him at like 22.
Mm-hmm.
But then we know that it's been about like 7 or 8 years from there to when Gohan fights Cell, which puts him at like 31.
I think at the end of Super, Gohan is 23. If I'm not mistaken, he's 22 or 23. So basically add 18
to 22.
or so to the 22. So he's already
Okay.
40-ish.
Are we,
So, yeah, he's-
are we counting the hyperbolic time chamber times?
I was just
Oh,
about to say,
yeah.
so he's
Which-
lost some years being dead, but he's gained collectively about 4 years.
So he's probably about 38.
I feel like the lost years
Well,
and
he
the,
would have
the
been like
gained years are
38.
about the same, honestly.
Yeah,
Like,
he would have been about 38 around the end of Boo
Z.
Saga,
yeah.
which means that current Goku has to be about 42 to 43, maybe 44. So if he's 44 now, then Bulma is still, because she meets him when he's like 5'6". She was like 16 when they met. Bulma is supposed to be like 54, 55.
Mhm.
But Bulma also just had a kid, which shouldn't be possible because she should be post-menopause.
2 kids.
She also was accelerated. I mean, there's no, it is possible because there's lots of cases, not lots, but there's cases of people having kids up into their 60s. There was something within the last decade of a woman in her 60s having kids. So it's also not necessarily directly based on our world's Earth. So who
Yeah.
knows? But
We also don't know what else she wished for Shenron.
I mean, her birth.
Didn't
her
she
birth
also like?
process
Didn't
was
she also?
accelerated by Whis? You know, there's a lot of weird things going on here with Bulma.
Didn't she also
She-
reverse her age too with Shenron as well?
I think she did try to chop off like 5 years because she mentioned something like, because she said the same thing that Frieza did when Frieza was wishing to be like 5 centimeters taller, which is that she wanted it to look natural and not be too obvious, you know, with the changes she made. Because it was like Frieza was like, I'm gonna find Shenron and wish to be 5 centimeters taller, because if I wish for more than that, it'll be a little too obvious.
Like that, I guess with that joke and how it, I guess however it attracted the fan base, they just made it a continuation joke onto like this next following movie for it, and just
Yeah.
it just kept it.
All right, so the internet says Goku's chronological age at the end of DBZ is 44. His body's actual age is at 37, which is roughly what we said. So again, factor in roughly 5 years. Pam's 3, there's time skip, there's a couple other things that happens. He's definitely somewhere between. He's now actually also 42 or 44 years old is essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah. because like him getting to skip out those 5-7 years doesn't change the fact that Bulma didn't. So yeah, she's supposed to be in her 50s right about now. So I guess depending on how many times she's wished to have about 4 or 5 years taken off, kind of determines.
I mean, she
whether or
literally
not
made
it
a
makes
whole
sense.
department team just to find Dragon Balls.
She's the richest woman on earth, so I mean,
Uh,
like, if we had Dragon Balls, and
She has
you
a
were-
whole birthday, guys, at the beginning of Super. We're forgetting about that. We actually have a way closer estimate to her age. She
I
has
don't
a
think we got-
45th. It was her 45th birthday.
Did they
That's
say it was
the-
45th?
I'm pretty sure it's the 45th birthday.
that was with the Beerus movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, then she definitely was lying though, because we know she's like 10 years older than Goku.
Yeah, something ain't matting somewhere.
Yeah, so she definitely lied. Yeah,
Look,
that's what I was thinking. Cairo,
Toriyama been lying about the age so much he done forgot her action.
Yeah, Cairo, that's kind of what I was thinking. That's part of why I was trying to justify it. I was like, well, I could see her, because one of the things that I think aged very well from GT with Bulma making these wishes is that like Chi-Chi and her kind of complained about the fact that Saiyans don't age the same way humans do.
Mhm.
And they were both kind of like mad because it's like, well, we're wrinkly and our husbands are ripped. And I'm like, you know what? That's fair. You're allowed to not like the fact that your husbands aren't sharing in the journey of aging with you, because it's like, well, I'm going to sit here and have my aggravated arthritis and you're going to go fight a god.
It's definitely also funny at the end bit of like, yeah, Goten, don't tell your mom about this. By the way, don't let your mom know about this.
Because Chi-Chi will pull up for all the smoke.
And she would never let Bulma live it down.
Oh, she
No.
absolutely wouldn't let her live it
Tear her
down.
apart.
One thing we know about Chi-Chi is she petty. She's definitely petty.
You riding
Beyond, bro.
So I think while we here talking about the fan service, we gotta take it back to early on in the movie to our boy Simp Beerus.
Beerus. Okay, so I like the fact that Beerus keeps like kind of like napping for really long durations. Mostly because I like that we're staying consistent with him constantly like fading out, not doing stuff or whatever. But got to start muting people on Twitter because they're saying weird things, and I don't want to risk getting spoiled.
I mean, we're in spoiler mode already, but
Oh well, I was talking about something else, but
Oh yeah, I closed Twitter. There's a couple things trending. I closed it.
Okay, so Beerus is deciding randomly that he's got a crush on one of the former Frieza Force people, Frieza Force girl. So Beerus is so far batting, I guess right. I don't know. He's betting straight, whatever you want to call it. But him basically being like, "Yes, you can stay because I like looking at you, and I'll go get you desserts and stuff." I think that's kind of funny because it shows that. It highlights a similarity between him and Goku. That both of them are like kind of muscle / meatheads, and neither of them are properly socialized for real. But I'll say that it also shows that Beerus at least is capable of recognizing attraction properly. And unlike Goku, who is like, "Oh yeah, I guess I am getting married," Beerus is like, "Yeah, I could find myself a wife."
Kissing? What's that?
Yeah. So it kind of shows like how Beerus is a good midway between Goku and Vegeta, I guess, when you really think about it. And him being nice to Limo because Limo can cook for him is a really nice touch.
It really, like, again, like the elements really don't take away. Like there's these little things that happen in this movie. And I mean, I feel like, we can all speak about this critically just for the way movies tend to be structured. You get guided in a certain direction throughout the whole movie. You get all the payoffs that are kind of basically pushed towards you. And nothing really outside of JBT appoints some animation things, some production things, I'm really from a story and a narration perspective, I'm with it. I'm with it the whole movie from start to finish.
Yeah.
I mean, even Broly has his own place too. The test dummy or the sparring partner for Goku, Vegeta, so that Goku does not bother Beerus to training and stuff like that too. Because like they can also kind of establish a little bit where Broly can get even more stronger. However, his anger is his distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, once he learns to control that, it'll be over.
Okay, so I guess I want to ask a question for you guys just because I saw it pop up online a couple times. Do you guys think that Broly's going to unlock Super Saiyan 4 for us in the Super Canon?
I don't think there's another form for Brolly. That's my short answer. I don't think there's another form for Brolly.
I was going to say the same thing.
Is there need to? Because the whole legendary Super Saiyan just literally hit the whole form and title in itself.
So, I guess for me, the thing about Super Saiyan 4 is that I think it was the best thing GT made, and I actually think it's one of the best transformations in the entire franchise.
Facts.
Because I think it, more than any other form, if you ignore the fact that you get free pants, like
and gloves,
and it's not because I want their meat out or anything. It's just that's a weird thing that they just randomly acquire, is like free gloves and pants. I think it is the most embodiment of like what Saiyans are, because you get like the monkey fur all over their arms and chest and stuff like that, but they're still humanoid, you know, like it's like, and you know, they get their tails back in that form too, and that, which is the other part too. So it's kind of like, this is the ape, the ferocity, that all that power that you associate with them being able to turn into that, but then also the transformation and the humanoidness that responds to their emotionality, like the more human physiology that they have. So it's like playing it to both physiologies and having it be balanced between the two to equal the peak of their power, I thought was a really great design choice.
I agree completely. I just to add another layer onto that. I love the, like you were saying, just the transition too, because you turn into that golden ape form, and then you transition into this other form, like you just said, which is like the blending of the two. It's perfect.
Even the way it's explained as like it's like the condensing of all of that into this controlled mindset, this controlled power, this concise form where you can truly utilize the benefits of all of what that is it. Again, hit GT if you want, but we just said it here. Super Saiyan 4 is it, and we know it's it because we brought it into Heroes. It was so good. He was like, "Yep, just go ahead. That was a really good concept. Go ahead and bring that thing over here. Let's talk about it."
I will always talk about the one thing in GT that I think it's brilliant. The arc that's easily as good as any Dragon Ball Z arc is the Dark Dragon Balls.
Oh, 100%.
Easily as good as any
and
arc.
For it to be a conclusion arc? Come on now.
Right. I would love for that to be translated into canon in some way. Like, I think it would be dope.
Like, I was surprised when you guys didn't like Baby, but I've never heard anybody say anything bad about the Dark Dragons.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Because one, I like the fact that you had, like, for example, the Toxin Dragon, and then it was like, what wish led to this dragon? And it was like Oolong's wish for a pair of panties. And it's like, you dirty like, so like the idea that different wishes of theirs filled the Dragon Balls with negativity, and that there was like a karmic scaling and balance to the situation. I was like, all right, I can rock with this. I can rock with that.
That's got more consistency than some of the other things that Toriyama has pitched at us, honestly.
It also took the Dragon Balls out of the equation. They couldn't use them to wish anybody back or to give anyone any upgrades to powers or anything. You know, the Dragon Balls were gone. And then we have these incredibly powerful threats with all of these different abilities. It was really good, man.
Also, I just remembered that like Piccolo dies in GT and chooses to stay dead, specifically so that Dragon Balls cannot be reactivated, and because it was, like specifically to lock away the Black Star Dragon Balls too, which, we talk about JJK having binding vows, but that was a binding vow. You get one wish, and now you got to find all these Dragon Balls of the planet the wish was made on explodes. What was the nameless Namekian thinking forging those? Which I guess also it does beg the question, like how many other Namekians just because to a certain degree now that I think about it, the recent Dragon Ball Super arc also kind of confirms that Namekians will show up on your planet and create Dragon Balls bound to your planet and not run that really by anyone.
And there's no specific rules to it, right? As we know from the manga, basically, there's nothing stopping you from going to another planet and do it. I mean, we kind of already knew that just based off of Earth having a kami, but just like the reconfirmation that like you literally a Namekian can go anywhere and become the guardian of that planet, essentially.
Like,
yeah.
So you talk about militarizing the Saiyans. People have peeped on that a little sooner, but been militarizing the Namekians is what would have been going on, creating little demigods on a bunch of different planets. So they completely shifted and disrupted the whole context of the way the universe ran. And then you
all will the built-in ability to fuse with each other to become more powerful.
That was raw as hell in Super.
Yeah.
When they fought the Namekians from Universe 6, and it was like, we are literally every Namekian from this universe trying to whoop you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
Talk about taking an old concept and emphasizing on. He was like, hey, remember how we absorbed the Namekian once? What if we absorbed all the Namekians?
Oh.
And then them basically being like, and because of that, Piccolo can do what would normally be attempted murder on these two. Like, because I think he beam cannons both of them. And it's like, no, because they've absorbed so many Namekians, they should have enough power to live through this really fatal blow. And it's like, oh, all right then.
Yeah, what's a couple souls? You'd be all right.
So I guess Orange Piccolo or the Gohan transformation, are we feeling like both were good? Only one was good? How are we feeling?
I liked both. If I had to be nitpicky, the one strand of hair that was coming out, I think it was just animated a little too thick. I think it looked a little silly. Didn't mind the length of the hair at all. I did think Piccolo's like bigger form was a little bit too bulky. I did like that he was a little bit bigger. I would have preferred just like enhanced muscles, but he looked a little bit too big and just like boxy and brolic. It didn't really work for me all the time. I did like that his like antennas like went up as well. Like it adds like a different dimension to it. I also do like that they kind of both have like red eyes in their new forms. I thought that was pretty cool. So they both worked. Small little nitpicky things, but I liked it.
I think it was like, I felt like it was almost a little bit of reference of when Gohan was doing his research and he found these ants, and these ants were actually special ants that could turn gold, and they call them like Super Saiy-Ants, and I'm guessing like
Super Saiy-Ants.
And I'm guessing like that was the reference for Piccolo, because he was literally in there in the studies, and then like you're going all the way bottom to like a pit, a crater, and then the whole tree, and then like, okay, so Piccolo's the ants, and this is his own Super Saiyan form, which is Orange Piccolo. I was like, okay, I guess it's not the wildest stuff that I've heard in Dragon Ball. So, and then they also made it the whole like, oh, it's your full potential plus a little bit more extra. But we already said it could be the evolution. It could be the combination with Kami. It could be the more of potential because of King Piccolo, and he's the son of King Piccolo in general. Like, and then all of the Namekians can have different abilities and different like forms and different ways. There's already a lot of potentials more potentials of more theories that all seem reasonable. And it's not like far fetched at all.
It's really small and it might not seem worth bringing up, but something that I really liked about Piccolo was just how he talked about the other versions of himself, like when I was King Piccolo, when I was Kami, because they're all a part of him. Like I love that he accepts all of that and he's now a new being based on all of that and all of his experiences. Like he doesn't try to like make it seem like he wasn't Demon King Piccolo, like he's accepted all of that. So that was something I really appreciated. And this entire movie is essentially, I mean, we've already talked about it, but I love that we follow Piccolo the entire time. We follow Piccolo from beginning to end, and it's about this dynamic between these two characters that have been overlooked for years.
Piccolo is effectively the protagonist of this story. Very
Facts.
much so, effectively the protagonist. Not just like the narrator, because we know Toriyama likes to use his protagonist as a narrator, but he's really effectively the protagonist pretty much all the way through. And as far as like the forms, I also was like a little bit too chunky. The initial time I saw it, there's far away shots and other fighting shots where it doesn't feel as clunky. And we have to remember, comparatively to everyone else, Piccolo's already massive. Like he's already a tall and broad person. So to give him that extra level of chunkiness, it was kind of weird. But I think I would have liked them to not go with the orange personally. I would have liked it because you kind of get a sense of, to me, I felt like his face was almost becoming more dragon-like. And I would have liked to maybe lean into a different color palette or even something semblance more so to a stylization that is similar to Shenron in some type of form. I think would have piqued my interest a little bit more, but I think it was a good reference all in of itself. I think Gohan's hair was perfect, guys. I think I might be the only person that thinks that even the extra chunk, I think it's necessary. It's about the ascension of the form. We know, especially for the half-blooded Saiyans, the hair grows substantially more for them specifically. And you get this callback and this stylistic look of what we refer to as Teen Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. And it's a very direct callback to that. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very, very much so very interesting. I'm waiting for Toriyama to tell us what crazy name he has dubbed whatever this form is. But it's very reminiscent for the people who's been back in my days. I ain't about to age myself, but y'all, the early internet days and a lot of the sub series and the sub write-offs and spin-offs that happened for Dragon Ball on the internet, specifically early animation and stuff, days like that. There was a certain series that progressed the lore of Dragon Ball Z many years. And it's very semblance of, I don't remember which number it is. I feel like it's either 7, it might be 10, I don't remember. But there's these high number of Saiyan levels that we got. This is before we knew anything about GT or anything like that. And so it was the stylization, that silver stylization, and the extreme hair is semblance of one of those Saiyan forms. And I just feel like Toriyama really has been a student of his audience. And I think a lot of times he gets a lot of heat for the way he chooses to write things, and it feels like sometimes he doesn't give enough of himself in there. But I felt a lot of Toriyama in watching this movie. To me, I felt that there was a lot of Toriyama in this movie, and I really, really am grateful for this. So right here, right now, thank you. I really appreciated what this movie was. And I don't feel like it took away from anything. And whatever parts of it is part of the story from what isn't part of the story, I'm cool with it. I'm sure there's a lot of things being built up in the world. If you're watching the manga, if you're reading the manga, you know the big theme right now, big spoiler warning, is who's the strongest in the universe. I feel like I could say it like that without saying it very directly, but there's this thing of like who's the strongest in the universe, and it's still, even to the last chapter, it's not clear who this new strongest person in the universe is, and it's going to create a series of cataclysmic changes. So to see that even in this movie, Toriyama is still pushing and upping the angst, where the manga is just cutting off at, pushing it up in angst. So I'm really, really, really pleased with this movie. Really pleased with this movie.
But I'm also kind of glad too, because like, we already know androids in itself are like already powerful beings, and that's because we remember correctly in the movie, Gohan only went to Super Saiyan 2, and when he fought number 1 or Gamma 1, Gamma 1 admit I still have 82% or something like that in his powers. And like when you come back to Tournament of Power, technically 17 won the tournament, and he was a he's a powerful being itself, and now it gives you the stakes of, is a good possible chance like it could be the inventor of the androids in this general, or it could just be an android in itself that's the most powerful being in the world too.
Mm-hmm. Which that is one of those things that I like, is that ultimately androids can be top tier still. It was kind of hinted at in the Tournament of Power with, I think it was, what was that, Universe 4? I don't know for sure. I can't remember which numbered universe it was, but
I ain't gonna hold you. I know what you mean, but I don't remember which universe.
Yeah, the Roboverse, we'll just say that, managed to make a pretty powerful android, and at least in the anime, it took like 5 members from Universe 7 to put that thing down.
Yeah, even in the manga, that is actually the way that they execute that is also pretty prominent to showcasing the power structure of things. But yeah, I agree. That's a great point, man. I didn't even think about that. But again, just all of these different factors of like power. You know what I mean? Different ways that we're still seeing that power can be showcased.
Universe 3.
Thank you. So yeah, like there's like no point to having androids in the series almost if you get to a point where they're all clipped out. And that's kind of why I kind of like the hints at Oob coming into play, because even if Oob is a reincarnation of Kid Buu, we're getting a human being that is going to be up there with the Saiyans. And that means a lot.
And now thinking again to other super specific lore, and I don't mean that to be super specific, but I mean Dragon Ball Super lore specifically, we know that the levels of humanity can increase and evolve over time. And we know that part of the reason that the Tournament of Power happened was that these were the lower tier universes over their average, basically, power levels. So just think of there's just more stuff to put into context about, like, you know, the universe being pushed. I really want to make another reference, but there's something for y'all that's seen the trends and the memes. There's some Black Frieza reference that also puts a whole different aspect into regards to like where your power structure for your universe can be based off of. And I think like I said, I didn't think he would have been able to. I was really upset with the way he finished the Moro arc. I didn't think he was going to do a good job of keeping me as enthralled, but I really enjoy where the manga is. And again, this movie also kind of echoes the sentiments of where the manga has been going. And I'm excited for this next arc being animated. Hopefully we do get it sometime. I'm hoping by midsummer of next year.
It'll be interesting to see how that goes, because of how hard Toei's been putting their foot in the One Piece lately, where I'll be kind of curious to see if the return of Super means One Piece kind of going back to its pre-Wano style, or if One Piece takes like a break or anything like that, just because Wano has been very, very, some would say even over animated with the utilization of ores and stuff we've gotten. So I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen with One Piece's production when we get Super's anime finally coming back, and seeing if it's going to be one of those things. Because Toei is one of the few anime studios with a union, from what I'm aware of. So that adds an extra layer to like why sometimes Toei anime people will feel like, oh, they're not as, you know, good as a Mappa anime, but in reality it's that there's just less human rights working violations happening at Toei, I guess.
I mean, they've been in the game much longer than anybody else's, and I guess you can have that seniority from compared to other animation company, but Dragon Ball, the entire franchise made them a lot of money. I don't
Mhm.
see them why not. Where like, I mean,
and continues to do so.
yeah, I mean like, literally, globally, the superhero movie just made 51 million, over 51 million currently globally.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm gonna pick up since Kyrax mentioned Beast. Technically, it beat like Idris Elba movie Beast in the opening weekend. Uh, Opening weekend it made 20.1 million in the U.S. alone, or like, well, yeah, North America alone. It's it became the third anime film to top the U.S. weekend box office, and it's the number three in the highest U.S. opening after Pokemon the first movie with 31 million in 1999, and Mugen Train with 21 million. Like, that's
Yeah,
still
man.
very incredible. Like, that's most of it's all in Toei.
It helps that the Broly movie was really good too. So it's like coming off the heels off of that, like you just said, Mugen Train. Like people are going out to the theaters every year more and more to go see anime in the theaters, and I fucking love it. Like before,
Mhm.
you didn't get anime in IMAX. Now you do. Before you just
Yeah.
had to you put it in the smallest theater possible, and you get what you get for like maybe 1 or 2 days. But now it's in IMAX. That was another thing that I really liked. It was a great experience to watch Broly in IMAX with a theater full of people watching this movie in IMAX. It's great. So we're gonna see this trend go up more and more each year.
What's insane is that Broly in opening weekend it only made 9.8 million. So
Which
super like made more than double.
and what's crazy about that though is that 9.8 million, when you look at the MCU, it's like it feels like it's nothing. And then you realize that anime movies weren't even making like a million a lot of the times. Like
Mm-hmm.
back when
Barely.
I think the
Still
like when
barely.
this like when the second My Hero movie came out, I think it was like the third highest Funimation film in US history,
And
and
yep.
it only
Mm-hmm.
made like 2 to 3 million in the opening weekend.
Mm. But then again, so we also have to caveat that with, like James say, more movie theaters, because that was the biggest reason some of those movies didn't push numbers is because limited states, limited showcasings.
Oh,
If
definitely.
hundreds of thousands of people would have gotten to see the movie if they just had the ability to even see the movie. So a lot of people just didn't have the ability to see the movie if they weren't living in essentially a major city. They just you were SOL.
And honestly, even living in a major city, because like obviously I guess it kind of comes down to how you see what a major city is, but the lowest population I can remember my city having is 500,000 people, and it's like the 30th largest city like population wise in the entire US, and we still didn't reliably get anime movies until like the last 5 years, where I would say, and keep in mind that like the greater county is definitely a million plus for my area regardless. So it's like this is an area that had a million plus people in it. Obviously there would have been anime fans. We've had, Anime Milwaukee for about like 14, 15 years. We've had multiple like cons be in the area. uh, this is a city that like regular actual like businesses like insurance companies and stuff will host their big corporate wide conferences in. And yet up until like 2017, I don't think it was common for us to have like anime movies actually here. You would like look it up and it would be like, oh, I guess if I want to go see One Piece Film Z or Film Gold or whatever, I gotta travel down to Chicago, or I gotta go an hour up into an even less populated area that for some reason just happens to be hosting this film.
Yeah, I think Broly definitely opened a lot of doors. I think people were forced to actually add an extra showing for Broly in some places. Broly
Yep.
was
Extra
brought
weeks.
back. Broly
Weeks.
was brought
We've
back
asked for a
for
month.
additional. That's what I'm saying. Broly got extra theaters after the fact. Broly was given extra weeks outside of what they were guaranteed for the movie slot because of how good it was, and it continued. It justified that extra time in theater. It continued to be watched and rewatched by people. So I think, like you were kind of saying, it's like the series, like everyone's saying, like the series of growth that's been happening, which is weird, is because it feels like we've always been saying like we will go to the movies to watch this, and we already had many proof of concept of anime movies coming into theaters and being successful, but they were still reluctant, and I get that. I mean, I get that from like movie theaters perspective, especially, we talking about transitioning, into where we are in regards to the pandemic and everything. There's a lot of questions to be had. But it's good to see that the culture around anime is being a lot more accepted.
And I also say that I think I think to a certain degree, anime studios didn't fully realize that while they weren't necessarily inherently already big, that ultimately, I'll also say that a lot of anime movies weren't super well marketed. Because the few exceptions I can say to that are like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh movies. I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh movies always hit theaters for a bit, and Pokemon movies, for at least the first three, they hit theaters. And the main reason I know that the first three hit theaters is because a kid named Adonis, who was like my best friend when I was in elementary school, his birthday party in third grade was us going to see the third Pokemon movie, or whichever one that Entei was in.
Yes.
Where
That's three. That's three.
Yeah, yeah, where Entei was in. So those movies were decently publicized, and I remember I got, like, as a gift when I was younger, my mom actually took us to see the Yu-Gi-Oh! Pyramid of Light movie in theaters. But for those anime to get their films in theaters, it took basically them having a long-running show, plus the fact that both of those had card games and video games,
merch.
and
That's
stuff
I was just about to
attached
say
to
you.
them.
It's
Like,
merch. It's
there's
definitely
like
merch.
so much stuff attached to those franchises that like theaters were like, well, yeah, I guess that's fine.
Also, the other thing to that is also, even to this day, even talking to other people and talking to them, Steve was actually talking about this a little bit the other day. People still don't consider Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh to be anime. So in their minds, it's just another cartoon movie. It's a little more palatable to be digested to the audience, I think, is another kind of one of those things. But I think, again, the biggest thing is the marketability of it all, because you're not just making sales from the movie with Pokemon. The Pokemon gave out Pokemon cards. You got different memorabilia sets, exclusive deck packs that came from the movies, all of these different things that continue to happen for those series. Video games specifically were spawning for both franchises. So it's a lot. And again, it's not to say that Dragon Ball wasn't doing those same things in any regards by any means, but I think the ability to which things were already being merchandised and marketed to the Western audience and other foreign audiences, the card game, like you said, was the biggest thing, way bigger than the toys. Also, and everything was the card games.
So, which, now that I'm thinking about it again, and there's a really cool fun fact that ties into the Pokemon card game. Do you guys know who made the Pokemon card game? Wizards of the Coast, the creators of Magic the Gathering.
Oh,
interesting.
Okay.
So
okay. That makes sense.
Effectively, what happened is that like the first like 3 to 4 years.
Wow, that makes so much fucking sense.
You know what? It does because like I'm thinking like the card game energy system and the whole prize after you like 1 battle, 2 battle, you pick up random 6 cards. Yeah.
Yep.
I see.
So for like the first 3 to 4 years that Pokemon the card game existed, Wizards of the Coast was the ones like building it, creating it, making its design. And it was like a limited license, and effectively that license ran up. They had created a successful foundation, and Pokemon was like, so legally we get to keep the way this game works, and we don't have to keep you wizards attached to us, so bye. And so that's like how they kind of got around that, and they like pushed Wizards out, and that's why people don't know that like that. But yeah, the same
That's
people who made Magic the
interesting.
Gathering made the Pokemon card games rules, and I think that also led into part of them being successful and getting that extra push marketing wise.
I didn't know that, but I do know that they're also the makers for several other series that came out that was inspired by that same format of card games. I can't think of the other series, but there was other series that basically spawned from it, even had animations and stuff to it. But I did not know that at all.
So yeah, that's because I'm a big Magic guy too. Like even so like I was gonna stream MTG Arena, but what happens with Arena is that I'll create a deck and I'll play for like 1 week, and I'll go from bronze all the way up to platinum, and then be like, all right, cool. I'm plat. I'm at least I'm a good player at this game. I did it in the first week. I didn't have to do this. So it's like I do it in 7 days, and I'm like, well, I've proven my quality of playerness, and if I wanted to keep going, I could probably get up to diamond, but I know my deck works. Bye. And then I just like forget about the game.
So JV, quick question for you. When did you first hear about Magic the Gathering? I'm asking you specifically because we grew up in the Virgin Islands, and I only heard about Magic in middle school because someone from the States came down and they was like a Magic person, and they were in our class, and he like introduced us to the game.
I'm almost embarrassed, but I didn't know about Magic the Gathering until 07, bro, when I left home.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't think if I didn't meet that specific classmate, I don't think I would have even known Magic existed until like I was getting out of high school.
Yeah, 07, 08, like when I went to college, that's when I learned about Magic. That's when I got into it.
Yeah, just interesting cultural perspectives of the popularity of certain things and the context behind certain things. But
I barely even remember seeing Magic cards. It was just Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh.
No, it was incredibly. That's why I like. So I actually I probably, if it's just probably home in my house somewhere, I have a Magic deck. They were so hard to get those cards that like I just didn't care. There weren't enough people that were interested in playing the game, so I forgot that Magic was a thing. And then like you said, kind of go off, overseas, and it's like, oh, Magic. I was like, oh, that's still a thing. Like I don't even know where to find those cards or anything. But kids were getting mangas in their bookstores. That's not something I had access to either.
Yeah.
No, I will say that today I found a random copy of my Cyber Twin Dragon and Gearfried the Swordmaster. Because my Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I do own that are still somewhere in this house are all cards that were printed before like 2009. Because when I was like for 2006, 2005, we had a music class in middle school, and the music teacher didn't really care because Milwaukee public school. And so we would actually just be like, we would go to class, he'd pass out like a sheet of work or whatever. We do it, maybe not do it. And then there was like 4 or 5 of us, and we would just be sitting there playing Yu-Gi-Oh in class all the time. Just that was what we did. So Yu-Gi-Oh was definitely a lot bigger than Magic. But part of that, so because you guys weren't familiar with Magic until 2007, you wouldn't know about why Magic got banned necessarily. And it's because Magic, when it first came out, had a mandatory ante. You had to bet a card. And depending on what cards you bet, some of them even had the ante ability on them, so that when you bet them, they activated another ability on it, which could lead to you having an advantage in game. So it was objectively like gambling. So they had to remove the ante from Magic the Gathering standard play style so that it wouldn't be gambling anymore.
So I guess that's how Battle City came to be.
That actually became an issue. That actually became an issue for all cards. So like I wasn't aware of like I said, I was aware of Magic a little sooner, but it became a thing where all card games were then I remember specifically at our school, all card games have become considered gambling, and so it became an issue because then we started to do the same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh.
Mhm.
And we started to do the same thing with Pokemon cards. It was like, all right, well, if you lose, you know, you not everybody was doing it, but you know, it had some more competitive people. It was like, all right, play for this card.
Yeah, and that's the thing. What's crazy is that like Magic had gotten rid of that anti-rule by like the mid 90s, by like 95, 96. It just didn't matter. That concept of, oh, I want that
Ante
rare
up,
card in your deck, ante up.
ante up.
Like it was in there now. It was like boom, that's it. That's in there. And so yeah, like I think that's part of why Yu-Gi-Oh did that, because officially speaking, the first TCG is Magic. Like there were collectible cards, but like the first TCG is Magic the Gathering. So that bleeds into all other things. I mean, you think about the fact that Kazuki Takahashi started Yu-Gi-Oh, like, you know, Duel Monsters and all this stuff in the 90s. It is very likely that, you know, when writing Yu-Gi-Oh, that did influence his perspective on like what the card game would be like.
Hey, is it even older than baseball cards? Because I mean, technically,
Those were that's a CCG.
And it wasn't you're right, it's collectible. Yeah.
And it wasn't even a G really, because it was just like you just had cards of a character or of a person, and it was like, look, I got my favorite baseball player's card. It's got his stats on it. Woo! And that was it. There was no game to be played.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
I would like to say this because I know it's getting late. I do also really want to shout out the voice acting in this movie.
Yes.
Again, we talk about some things that there were some things we qualmed about with production, but like another side of production that shined through was the quality and execution of the voice acting. It was phenomenal. Like I said earlier, Gamma 2, shout out to Zeno. Like I was convinced the whole way through. I was
that's Zeno?
Yeah, that was Zeno.
I was entertained the whole way through. Like it really was just like, it was really good experience. And even from the returning voice actors and stuff for the other characters, I really felt like it almost felt like they stepped up in just this movie, and it feels like they really enjoyed what they were doing with this movie and had fun with it. And if you've been to any of like the conventions and met any of the other voice actors who voice characters from Dragon Ball, you know they really feel passionate about the series. They're super passionate about the series. To the voice actors having real life beefs with each other over their characters. Like it's really deep and personal for them. So I really just want to, you know, shout out to the voice acting in regards to like just production that is done at all in regards to this. That's probably my closing point. Honestly, my closing point is I think one of the biggest takeaways from this movie is that the voice acting was spot on, and I love Pam and Gamma 2 on the screen. I hope that some way somehow we get some type of Gamma 2 callback at some point, because the Gammas really did something for me in the movie personally.
Yeah, on the topic of voice acting, outside of the core characters that we've known for years, like my favorite voice performances was Gamma 1, Gamma 2, and Dr. Hedo.
And Dr. Hedo, yep.
I thought they were all amazing.
No, I enjoyed those three. And like there, because the acting really did kind of convey like a youthful optimism for the Gammas, and like that, you know, mad scientist, but not like a toned down mad scientist for Dr. Hedo. So yeah, I'll agree. Like I think those three characters actually had great performances attached to them. And I think they were also, you know, genuinely well-written characters, well designed. I was glad that they established a reason for Dr. Hedo to live through a lot of the stuff they did from the first meeting when he mentions, yeah, I've modified my skin to be able to withstand certain impacts, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, they didn't specify what kind of impacts when they said it, but I was just kind of like, okay, cool. You're letting me know ahead of time that technically he can take a hit. So
you want another fun tidbit just for you, JB? Gamma 1 is the voice actor for one of our favorite demon lords, dub voice, Monsieur Voldy God.
Okay. I knew there was something. Okay, there we go.
Dr. Hedo's voice actor is the voice actor for Demon Slayer main character
Tanjiro.
Oh,
yep.
yeah? Dope.
The Gamma one is also Zenitsu. So yeah, this cast as well is very diverse. If you pull up all the profiles of the voice actors, super diverse cast.
Yeah, it was like a new. I would say it's similar in age group, but the different range of personality wise, I was actually really well done for all of them for sure.
I'm quickly also starting to hit people with mutes on Twitter because of these spoilers.
I'm just gonna stay off. I'm gonna stay off till tomorrow. Like I told you, I saw the hashtags that were trending right before we started, and I was like, "Yep, close Twitter."
One of them has been trending since Sunday, so
yeah, I don't even know how we got leaks on a Tuesday night. That was blowing my mind.
Yeah, I was like,
Tuesday evening. Like what? It's crazy.
There's a series that I've given up avoiding spoilers for just because of the fact that I have seen the chapter for the next week trending on Sunday before. And I'm just like, screw it. I give up. I'm not trying to dodge you anymore. It's too much effort. It requires muting and blocking too many people, some of which I actually enjoy talking to. So screw it.
So yeah, closing thoughts, James, Aniki?
My closing thoughts would be that this was a good movie for one, highlighting that, because I think it's easy to kind of write Dragon Ball off as a super meathead series. So I thought that this movie did a really good job kind of like emphasizing the bonds between some of these characters more. So I think this definitely had a lot more heart than like Resurrection F, or even Battle of the Gods. I feel like this one was genuinely centered more on like the growth and what these characters need to be thinking about moving forward in their lives, instead of just kind of and like kind of created a path for Gohan to go forward in as a character, as well as space for Piccolo's development and showing, part of like why he does what he does, but also where he can go. And, obviously adding a buff to Shinron, I'm assuming does create space for later, more complicated things to happen with Shinron. So I thought the movie did a good job of being something that will more than likely be referenced in the manga, which will then allow it to have an impact on the story in some form, shape, or way, specifically through Shinron. So I thought it was actually a pretty good tool for the way that the Dragon Ball Super movies have been handled, especially with it being canon that gets expanded upon in another venue later down the road. So like with that, and then of course Gohan special being canon, just the amount of love that like scene kind of shows that he has for Piccolo, and that dedication and that understanding, beautiful. And then I guess the bonus detail of like, I'd been kind of confused about Gohan's glasses for a while, where I felt like that was just like almost like a Clark Kent human disguise thing, but then them basically clarifying that when he's not transformed into Super Saiyan, his human DNA impacts his vision and actually requires him to need it, I thought was a nice touch. So that's my final thoughts on that.
Yeah, also the Piccolo fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
So I thought, just to echo everything that you said, but for me, like the film was just, it was really fun, which is what I think anime should just be sometimes. It should just be fun. This is a Dragon Ball movie for Dragon Ball fans. If you've been watching since Dragon Ball, you'll get a lot out of this. There's a lot of parallels to things that have happened before. There's some great things that have been added to the canon, that we've been reminded of in canon. Gohan special beam cannon, that was awesome. Getting to see where Brolly is right now, where he's training with Gohan with Goku and Vegeta and Whis, I thought that was awesome. I love the introduction of the Gammas. Like, I'll be honest, when I saw the first trailer and I saw them, I didn't really care for the designs, if I'm being honest. And then when I got into the film, I was like, oh, this is actually kind of dope when you look at it in context, right? You're looking at the design of someone who wants to create a hero, and I love the aesthetic of their designs. I love everything about this movie except elements of the production. I already mentioned I'm not the biggest fan of this animation style. And something that I thought that was a missed opportunity is that for all of the action sequences, the camera was just really, really close on all of the characters. Dragon Ball and other anime, and being perfectly honest, anyone that wants to shoot really good fight sequences, you need wide shots so that you can truly understand the scale of the battle. And everything was just super up close, and it really, really bugged me because it's like I can't really get the full scale of these fights because everything is just super close in frame and in camera. But besides those things from a production standpoint, again, this was a Dragon Ball movie for Dragon Ball fans. If you love Dragon Ball, you're going to have a really fun time with this movie. I would still put Broly over this, but just by a little bit. But I had a lot of fun. I honestly can't wait to see it again. I had a lot of fun with the Gammas, like I said. Yeah, 8 out of 10 for sure.
Yeah, I agree with what all everybody says about the movie. I understand that not people who are not full on to anime movies, but they love Dragon Ball and they go into. And I've heard comments and I've read it. It's like not a lot of people likes this sort of animation style, and like yeah, which is very understandable because CG is still relatively new, but at this point it's not new anymore. It's still being worked on to improve, but overall, I think it did a did an okay job for sure. Some and you can actually tell with some animation issues with the CG, but it's not the most noticeably thing at all. I mean, it's Dragon Ball. One thing that substitute the animation is that there's actually a pretty good, decent story to Dragon Ball, and that's saying something. That says a lot, actually, as well as like when you have Dragon Ball movie, Toriyama gives you, all right, I'm gonna give the fans what they want. He literally gives the fans what they want, piece by piece, like in every different movie or in the super manga or in like superhero in heroes. Like I actually enjoy like Vegeta finally got the win over Kakarot, and the whole like I finally did it. I beat Kakarot in the hand-to-hand combat with no chi, nothing. The whole like some cameos of Frieza, cameos of Jiren, the smart of Vegeta saying, "Yeah, I'm focusing my brain." Like he did it whenever he throwing blows and everything, it's instantaneously in a last second where you can't predict what he's doing or move. It shows the genius more of Vegeta, and we see that in the manga, but for the non-manga readers and only the anime watchers and stuff like that, this is great character growth for Vegeta itself, as well as like a little, even if it's a small cameo. The main focus was Gohan and Piccolo, and I think like talking about with the voice cast, I think Chris Sabat had so much more joy of going into Piccolo voicing, like because it's so brand new. It's not Vegeta anymore. It's he's the main star too, where his main focus is to be the serious grandfather for his grandchild as well as the father for his son. It's giving him the tough love again, even more of a tough love. Yeah, I know you're book smart, but you have so much of the potential of being the strongest warrior on earth, and he did. He showed it, and it's true. He had to get himself beat up. He had to get his arm cut off again. Like he had to get his near-death experience, but he didn't end up like Android 16. That's the whole difference. He didn't end up like Android 16.
You didn't lie there.
Whereas where Gohan cares so much about Android 16 and he went to Super Saiyan 2, I'm pretty sure Gohan cares a lot more about Piccolo than he does for Android 16. So a lot of parallels to this movie with the Cell arc and a little few like other arcs too. I mean, it's great. If you actually like the Cell arc in Dragon Ball Z, you actually would like this movie with like superheroes. It's just it works out great. All right, guys. I think we can head out from here. Thank Aniki. Thank you again for showing up to the show. Can you give us your plugs, please?
It's Aniki Smash FSP wherever you need to find me, whether that's on YouTube or Twitter. That's where I have my discussions. I've been accidentally procrastinating on that Wano space, but I've also been rereading Wano lately, so we will definitely have that conversation. I'm on like chapter 1020 something, maybe even 1030 now, so I'm pretty much almost done with that reread. So if you want to have that Kindle still, we can make some time for that. All right.
James.
Yeah, you guys can follow me all over social media at JB Exclusive. You want to find absolutely everything that I do, just go to carefulforspoilers.com. You'll find all of the latest articles. Shout out to Abe for writing a recap of everything that happened at Gamescom yesterday. He wrote an article talking about his top five most anticipated games revealed at Gamescom. That was a lot of fun. Appreciate him for writing that. I also wrote an article on the website talking about the 10 best time manipulation movies. That's on the site right now. My Orphan First Kill movie reviews on the site right now. Again, you want to find everything we do, all the podcasts, merch, Patreon. It's all on the site. You'll find us there.
Kenny?
I'm gonna shoot my shot and tell James I want to do a movie review with you sometime soon.
Hell yeah.
But y'all know it's your boy Kenny. You can follow me, Kendall Grant VA or Kendall X Anime. Everything else you need to know is down in the bio below. So smash that like button, share with your friends, and keep the conversation going with us on Twitter. I'm still down to talk about the movie.
Thank you guys for watching, and hope you guys enjoyed the Anime podcast. Always remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to hit 3K. It's been months. We need to hit 3K already at this point. But thank you again. Thank you to our Nissan Aniki for joining us for tonight's show. You always come through with us, and when we ask for, and we love your knowledge and thoughts and opinions as well as your homework. You do your homework really well. We appreciate you always, man.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we can pan out from here. Peace.
All right. Woo. All right. I've been up since 7 a.m.